Woo! If I hit all the buttons, we are live again for another episode of Talk Power BI. Hello and welcome to the show. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. Click that subscribe, click that bell so you're notified whenever we go live to answer your Power BI questions and just talk in general about Power BI. So if you are joining us on YouTube, make sure to say hi, drop in, let us know where you're watching this from. And meanwhile, I'll say hi to our Learn Power BI students on the phone. Zach, how are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing pretty good, Avi. How's it going?
Great. I don't think I've met you virtually, right? Have we? Right? I mean, it feels like
No,
it's the first
no,
time
this
I'm
is it.
seeing you.
Yeah. Breaking in the webcam.
All right. Yeah, that's really good, my friend. Yeah. So the truth is that people are faked out by this IKEA roller blind that I have beside. My office is this corner in this bedroom, or as I like to call it, the Learn Power BI worldwide headquarters. So, but where are you at? So I can see a really nice background, gosh, in the back.
Oh yeah, it's a cheap IKEA uh, room separator as well. I'm in upstate New York.
All right. Thank
Uh,
God for IKEA, my friend. Right?
right.
Oh gosh, that's great. All right. You were here last week too, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So I know last time you were kind of listening in. Is there something on your mind for today?
Yeah, I do. I want to ask about, as I dive into these projects and I want to reach out to the community for
Yeah.
support. I mean, obviously, I can describe data sets and share
Mm-hmm.
DAX formulas and things like that, but I feel like there are going to be times when kind of the best way to share what I'm trying to do is to share a PBIX file, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Um, Now, obviously, I can't share sensitive company information. So what I'm wondering is there a tool or a best practice in terms
Yeah.
of trying to cleanse or anonymize data before I do something like that?
Yeah. That's great. That's great. So I'll park that question, but I've thought about it, and I should probably. Okay. Cool. Got your question. Yeah. So I'll save that one. How to share data safely when asking for help. Hey, I also wanted to shout out to our moderator, Steve Ross. So Steve helps us keep an eye on the chat box when I can't, and he's a lifesaver. So, folks, if you want your questions to be brought up, you don't necessarily need to catch my eye. You need to catch Steve's eye, and he brings them up to me as well. All right, let's see what's going on YouTube. Steve is on YouTube as well. You can see him. He's from San Antonio. Manor says hi. Jen Abel, always good to see you here. Danny says hello from Greensboro, Georgia. Thank you. Last week you helped me with pulling in a specific file on SharePoint. Worked perfectly. Great. That's what we're here for. John says hello from Basque country. Oh, how awesome! Wait, I'm like that's in France, is it? Okay, we know. Mark says hi from North Carolina. Red Scooter, Tom is here. John is here from Idaho. All right, my folks. So, if you have any Power BI questions, go ahead and ask. Steve, I'll check in with you. Did you bring in any questions? You always have. Well, when you do bring them, I know they're always good ones. You've thrown some
Well,
interesting ones at
can
us.
you hear me okay?
Yeah, yep, I can.
I'm on sort of a different set of equipment today.
Nice upgrade,
This
is
is
it?
no, it's sort of no, I wouldn't call it an
Okay.
upgrade, but it's just different.
All right.
I'm on go to meeting on my iPad and watching YouTube on my computer
All right.
because I don't have a microphone on my computer at my
Okay.
house.
All right. So tell me
Um,
what you have in your mind.
well, it's not critically important, but if I am kind of interested, ran into a little situation in uh, bringing an
Hmm.
Excel file in from Power into Power Query,
Yeah.
where the say in the top in the first row there was a date,
Uh.
and that's the date that sort of represents all of the data in the file.
Yeah.
There's no date column.
Got it.
And when I'm able to fill that down to represent the date column, that becomes the date column. But the problem is that the first entry in the first row, if it were to be elevated to a column header, it's hard coded as whatever that date is. It's, call it March 27th, whatever.
Yeah,
and each file for each day is structured the same way.
Got it.
So you have the date.
Yeah.
And so when you elevate that to the in Power Query to headers, it's a hard coded header. So the same query it'll break for a different file if it has a different value there.
Yeah. Got it. So I'll ask you. I have a feeling. Have you solved this one yet? Because I know sometimes you solve it and you're like, "Well,
I did."
Ah, Steve, man, I know you went now.
But
so great. But yeah, you just want to kind of explore.
I have the best way to do it.
Yeah. Got it.
Kind of what it was. I added an index.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
And then if the value was 0, then it became the field, the value date. If it was not a 0, it became the, and then then it would be consistent for every file because it would always be date.
That's great. Awesome. I expected nothing less from you. So there are always a few different ways to solve it. Frankly, I haven't I get the problem. I haven't kind of thought it through, so I'm not sure what's jumping to my head. But yeah, we'll take a look. Awesome. So we'll do a quick check-in into YouTube as well. Huawei is saying, hello, Avi and everyone. Can you please share with us the book name by Stephen Few that you'd recommend in your YouTube video? Let's start there. John says Basque Country is in Spain. I was close. Just close France. All right. Cool. From what I remember reading from a fiction novel, I'll admit that Basque Country has a very colorful history in the sense that they wouldn't kind of fall in line with whoever was a nearby ruler in France or Spain, and there were always like these troublesome, kind of area of folks kind of who stood up for themselves. So, John, I'm sure you represent that spirit, my friend. All right, so a couple of good questions in already, and that's awesome. So we got one from Zach, which is, hey, how to share, files securely, or if you're trying to ask the community. So of course, inside our student group, we have our Facebook community. We have a Slack community for the pro level members as well. That's a bit of a beta. Or you're going out there on the community somewhere on the web or something. So I definitely have thoughts on that. And Steve had a question about Power Query, the query editor. I didn't see. Oh, okay, yeah. Huawei's question. Let's start about that. Let's talk about that a bit. So I'm gonna drag the clock here so I can kind of timestamp it. 09:11 and so I'll just write it. Information dashboard design. So that's yep. So information Stephen Few book. Information dashboard design. So folks, I have thought about this for for a bit. So here's the thing, right? So let's talk about. So I'm gonna take that cue from who I want to make sure I say it right. Huawei to talk a little bit about visualization. So first of all, let's go to that book, Information Dashboard Design. So this one is not a new book. He does have a new book out, but frankly, I think this is like the classic, and obviously since it's not new, you might be able to pick it up at a good price on Amazon. Let's see if I get the right book. Nope, not. Oh, was it that one? Yeah, this one. Oh boy, so this is sitting up right here on my shelf, and this one. So I'm a big Kindle reader. Now I would say that it's sometimes hard to read technical books on Kindle. So folks who have my book, of course the gosh, I'm blanking out on the title. Something about Power Pivot and Power BI. Let's take a look. So folks who have this book, and you can, if you don't want to give all your money to Amazon, if you want to support the Learn Power BI cause and this channel, then go to my website, learnpowerbi.com, and buy the book there. That way the proceeds go to support this effort, this Talk Power BI and everything else. So here, this obviously, so in here I have the ebook, and well, yeah, this one is up to users. We did work hard to optimize the ebook format, but for this one, information dashboard design, I would recommend getting a physical copy. You can see all my kind of the tabs over here, and it's just beautiful. It's just visually very pretty, and it actually starts off with the bad examples. So this was my staple, and this I would strongly recommend as well. Now, the key message here is kind of less is more, and let the data be the hero, right? And we often see a lot of kind of flashy dashboards and that sort of stuff. So yeah, he starts off with this, right? These gauges and all that stuff. Like, well, maybe that's not the best way to do it. And in the end, so again, kind of some examples of what not to do. And we feel like it has to be flashy. And for one, we get confused by other examples we see. Somebody else presents, and maybe even people kind of clap or applaud or whatever, but it's misguided, right? So we see that, and we feel like we need to do something like that. That's not true. And boy, so this is still the bad example. And then again, some wasted space. It talks about like pixel real estate, some really good concepts in there. Oh gosh, right. And we build these kind of things, and you see them all over. So that's kind of one example. The other example is actually more subtle in Power BI, where what I see, and even, so I remember seeing at the Microsoft Power BI Summit, I think it was last year, they had these demos, and they would show these really fancy visualizations. And so, oh yeah, you can look at the engine and, drag and rotate it. And I think we missed the point there, that for 95% of the cases, you need to be just tables, right, which can be matrix and card as well. You need to have bar or column charts, and you need to have line charts. That's it. That should be a staple. That should be the bulk of your visualization. So you've heard me talk about how it's okay to break the rules. So I talk about how in general you should have only one directional relationships, not bidirectional. You should have one to many, not any other kind. And if you do something else, then you need to be able to explain it to me. Same way, if you're going beyond a table, a bar or column chart, or a line chart, I feel like I'm missing one. Maybe that's good. Then you need to be able to explain to me or yourself, right? Why are you doing it? That, oh, I use this graphic because I was trying to convey this, which is more effective in that way. And just do it conscientiously, not because it looks so pretty. Oh, and one of the ones that, of course, a pie chart, there is a great debate on pie chart and Steam View. I'll let you read the book. We have talked about that a few times on this channel, and exactly why they're not effective. And similarly, I hear people talking about ribbon charts and this, that, and I'm like, gosh, yeah, but what's your intent? So again, there are some folks who are kind of misguided, who don't know, but the other ones are drawn by this kind of flashy visuals and that sort of stuff. And I think what's coming in over there is this confusion. So the confusion is that one is where, oh gosh, I had a word for it. I don't know what to call it. Like, so for most of my part as an analyst, what I would build are kind of operational reports, what I would call them, right? So these are reviewed kind of daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, something like that, right? So some cadence, but they are reviewed on an ongoing basis, right? There is another form of reporting, storytelling. Storytelling, infographics is also storytelling, right? So infographics, I think, is one way of storytelling. It's a subset of that. And we often see this in the media. and it looks beautiful, right? Gosh, I mean, I'm stunned. I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. And we try to emulate that. But the mistake we make is we're not really storytelling. We're building most of the time operational reports. And so again, there's a big difference. For instance, in my course, inside my course, I talk about visualization. Let's just go inside the course. And I actually do want to add one more lesson inside my course, just to kind of wallow in Stephen Few things a little bit. But it does start with, it does focus on kind of the less is more, and talks about the best practices and so forth. So there is one part where I talk about bubble chart. Oh yeah. So I show that, but then I also talk about kind of my failure, and yeah, I tried to use it in an executive meeting, and it was a mini disaster. And one of her students pointed out the Hans Rosling talk. If you have seen the Hans Rosling talk, let me know in the chat window. It is mind blowing. This title does it justice. The best stats you've ever seen, and of course the person's energy and so forth. Let's see, and let's just get in there. Can I mute it? Oh boy. Oh yeah, there we go. All right. So, and he is this animated, and let's see. Oh boy, I should have pulled it up on YouTube. I don't know how to. Anyway, so if you haven't checked it out, check it out, Hans Rosling. It's really impressive. And so the person can, send me feedback saying, "Hey, Avi, you're throwing bubble charts under the bus, but look at what Hans Rosling did." But what you don't realize is, of course, Hans Rosling is telling a story. He's telling a bloody awesome story. It's just poof, right? That's not operation reports. So again, I mean, you might see others doing this gaudy stuff and don't feel like you have to do that, and you keep it simple. Now, of course, that does mean that you're gonna eventually butt heads with some folks, even your clients who would want a pie chart. And I'll admit, hey, I have put pie charts on my dashboards, but I at least try to defend myself. I try to tell them that, hey, this is why pie charts isn't very effective. Cool. Bonus points for somebody who can say at least one reason why pie charts aren't effective. And again, I'm not saying kind of no to them, but well, Stephen Few does. All right, cool. So good discussion. Let's see what's. Oh wow. Okay, let me read through the comments really quick. Okay, we got that. So Huey is saying, we'll call that a hashtag win. So guys, I messed up a little bit. So we're supposed to start by one of us sharing a hashtag win. So we'll count Huey as that one. So he's saying, my company is amazed with my first BI dashboard and asking for more now. Going to be the key influencers to everyone. Absolutely. I always say, don't just learn Power BI, lead, my friends. Lead, and you don't need anybody's freaking permission for that. And you don't need a title for that. Just step into that role, and that's it. That's great. Awesome. I'm on the my question is create one model but connecting table fields and not showing any data. Okay, I'll save that one. Okay, Sam is trying to help them as well. Man, I love when that happens. Oh, so Geared, yeah, he has seen that talk. Solidified laser pointer. That's hilarious. Okay, so I'm gonna save the question and go to maybe I think Zach's question would be quicker to answer, so we'll go there. Oops. Steve, Zach. Okay, got it. So let's do. How to share data. How to share PBIX files. Share PBIX. I'll just say data actually. Others when asking for help. So this one, I'm gonna open the file that we use for our class calls. So folks, Thursdays, not all Thursdays, but some Thursday, we meet with a class. And this is a similar hangout like this, but it's more intimate. It's a smaller group. We're not on YouTube, so anything you say wouldn't be like chronicled forever. But this is what we use. And hold on, I want to. It has some links that I can't share, but there we go. So Zach, I'll send you the link to this, which is mostly in all of our reminder emails. So general stuff. So I always believe that learning isn't doing. Sure, the course is great, the core concepts, but they don't really, they don't kind of really, you don't internalize it until you apply it. Okay, so here are the ideas that I have. So you can save the PBX file as a template. That way, it doesn't have any of the data, but it has all of the structure. So somebody else would be able to see your measures, your fields, just not any data, right? So that is a great idea, in fact. And one advantage of that is it's super duper quick. It's like, right, I mean, it's just file, save as, PowerBIPro template, and boom, that's it. The data isn't gone. Yeah, actually, yeah, I think that works, right? In a class setting, or when you can share your screen and only show non-sensitive information. So sometimes, so you can control, and sometimes even when people are screen sharing, if you want to be really careful, what you do is if you have 2 screens, then you keep, what I do is I keep my model on the screen that I'm not sharing, and then I keep like a paint window on the screen that I am sharing, and I would selectively copy paste that, right? So I'll say, hey, here's my relationship view, and then, well, so let's say one of my students is doing it. So I'll say, hey, Avi, here's my relationship view, and then I'll say, yeah, can you give me a glance into the sales table, or show me where you have a problem, and then I'll say, yep, I'm having problems. I'm waiting for it to load up, but somewhere, and maybe I'll do something like this. Cool. So I'll say, and again, screen annotation software. There are whole tons of them out there. Jing is my favorite, and this is what it lets you do. So you can say something like this. So you can say, this table is not filtering when I click on the chart above. Something like that. I don't know why I put 1 in there. So you can kind of share that and all that stuff. All right. So again, we're gonna look at all the different ways. So share your screen. So that's of course one way. A lot of times people, when they share their screen, they just put the PBIX file up, and and again, if your data is really sensitive, then it's possible that you'll click on the data tab by mistake, and boom, now there are emails that are showing up, and of course our class calls are recorded as well, and we can't go back and edit it out, right? So it's on you to make sure that you protect the data. So customer, so yeah, birthday. So imagine if you by mistake clicked on this data tab. You never meant to. You meant to click on report, which doesn't have sensitive information. So yeah, so you can kind of share your screen and show it that way. This one is create a dummy PBX file just to explain your problem. And what I often do is, hold on, guys. I would hack the data in here. So I would do the smallest example, and you've seen me do these on these Talk Power BI calls as well, where what I do is I just say, I'll say, oh, okay, yeah, tell me the problem. Oh, okay, you got a budget table, and it's got a month, and it's got amount, and something like that. So you bake a dummy table, like a small subset of the data you want to show. Another way is you filter your PBIX file so that it's so small that it's meaningless. So of course, one way to do that is maybe to a single day, right? So that way you're not sharing your annual sales or something like that. It's just a one day and it's just meaningless. Usually that doesn't work that great because often, especially that wouldn't work though if you're dealing with any kind of question which involves time intelligence, like over time, rolling 3-month period. So if you filter it to a day, you can't, nobody can help you answer that. So what I actually like doing is I filter it to like a small, like just one city or something. Now I realize that that's sharing the PBIX file is still probably not going to work in that case, but sometimes that makes it easy to share your screen and show that file. Remove sensitive fields. This one works surprisingly well. I'm always surprised at how, people throw these different problems at me, and I'm able to recreate that in AdventureWorks. So AdventureWorks is an awesome data set, and of course you have that AdventureWorks samples in there. Oh boy, so I feel like there was one other thought in my head, which was, I didn't quite using random name lists. So anonymizing can be really hard. It can be really hard. Or it can be easy. I don't know. Depends on your data set. But it's not, so, well, maybe there's a reason I didn't have it in here and why I'm mentioning it last, because that part may or may not be easy. So I would generally recommend that you explore all these different options before you look at anonymizing. But if I were to do that, then what would I do? So of course, I would use this example first to remove sensitive fields. So stuff that cannot be shared at all, right? So remove sensitive fields. Social security number, credit card, God forbid, if you have that in your data set. Anything like that. Date of birth, right? Date of birth. Remove sensitive, which is, remove, let's say, non-essential. Which is not essential to the problem you're looking to solve. Let's clarify that. Problem you're looking to solve. But then change other fields using merge. All right, so I'll just give you an outline. So let's say I didn't need the name in there, but of course these are my customer names. I don't want to expose that. So what I would do is I would create a list of names. Let's say customer name. Oops, I thought you were able to copy it. Let's see, no? Nope. Okay, let's try. In the query editor, was it? Hold on one second. So let's say, might have to export the data. Full name. Can you copy it from here? Awesome. So let's say you do get the real name. So I'll put that. You don't have to put it in Excel. You can put it anywhere you want. And again, you wouldn't do it from the query editor. You would just get the names from wherever the data source is. And here's what I do next. So random name generator. Random name generator. How many? 100. Is there another one? There's one that I kind of like the look of. Okay, well, there are quite a few out there. So number of names, 100, male, female, common names. So let's try that. Oh, and there's usually an option to convert to a list. Random name generator. let's see if this is the one. Oh yeah, I like this one. So 50, male, female, first names only, yes, and generate. And I get that, and list in a text area, and I just copy this. And of course you can do that multiple times. So I put the name here, and then I do a merge in my data set. So what I do is I go in here in the query editor and I say merge the full name with that. So right, and then I replace the full name with this random name. So I anonymize it that way. And then what I would do next is, if needed, randomize the numbers. So if you have your sales amounts in there, then you can multiply it by a random number, or sometimes you can just, kind of like divide it by, that one is, again, I mean, your call, like divided by a really big number, let's say 1 million or something, and it looks like decimal. It's so people wouldn't know what you divided it by. Did you divide by 1 million? Well, actually, they could look at the query editor if you do it in the query editor. You can do this one. This one is a little tricky to do in query editor, not that much. But again, I mean, you see that it's a little bit of work. So I would try other approaches before this. So Zach, what do you think? Do you have at least some ideas on how to kind of share?
Yeah, I mean, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for. And
right,
for different scenarios, I think that each one of these suggestions will apply. So.
Yep. All right. Great. Awesome. That's great. All right. Let's see. Loretta Sue is here. Hello, my friend. Hello. So Loretta Sue is also a member of the Learn Power BI family. Dynamic row-level security. I know about row-level security. I'm not sure about what do you mean by dynamic. Unable to filter the entire dashboard. Only data from one table is being filtered. Ah, okay. I think I know. You can create a hash. I'm not sure who John is responding to. Okay, cool. So we'll park that as well. And let's see. I want to take oops. Is this Learn Power BI? Okay, cool. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to share. So Zach, I'm gonna put in the chat window. The link is a little bit garbled. I think. Oh gosh, what is it doing? Or maybe it's working out. So that's the. Wait, no, that's. Yeah, I think that is going to take you to the document that I was referring to. So you can refer to those notes later too.
Perfect.
All right, let's close all that. And so, folks, we usually round robin. We take one question from our students and another one from YouTube. So let's see if we can take one from YouTube, and then we'll swing back to Steve's question. I like Pawan's question too. Let me see. Oops, that's not it. Copy. Okay, got it. So Pawan, we're gonna so let's take Aman's questions. I've created one model, but connecting table fields are not showing any data, but only primary table is. Where's my fault? Actually, I'm not sure. I think we need a little bit more information. In fact, Aman, would you be able to dial in later? We'll kind of open that. Okay, let's take Pawan's question. And Aman, we'll have you dial in, and hopefully you are able to do that, because I'll probably ask you more questions. Be ready to share at least some parts of your of your model, and you can use all the strategies that we discussed right now. 3709. I mean, I can speculate. If it comes to that, I'll come back and try that. All right, so cool. Let's parking lot. Okay, cool. So let's see to AdventureWorks. So what Pawan is trying to do is it filters something based on a user email and show data related to as per the org hierarchy. So role level security, and I cover it inside my course. So again, for those who, I know a lot of my students join these sessions as well. So I'll just point to the resource where we discuss role level security. So it is RLS. It has two full forms: role level (ROW) level security or role level security. So we talk about that. So you can refer to that more. But so one way to do that is to you create a different role for kind of based on access. You say North America. And then you say, oh, this one has access to country is United States. And I know there's Canada there as well, but we'll ignore it for now. United States, and then you create like Canada, not North America, but EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Asia, and then you add another filter for that, where you add a filter and country is this, and this, and so on and so forth. You do that, and then you go back and add people to these roles. So if you have 10 people in the North America sales team, you add all of them here. EMEA sales team goes here, and then when they come in, they see the right stuff. So this is one way to do it, but I don't think I've ever implemented it this way because there's a fair bit of overhead in this in maintaining the role membership, right? So it's just somebody has to stay on top of that. Like, oh, somebody left from the North America team. Now we got to remove them in the role from PowerBI.com. Somebody moved from North America to EMEA, or somebody new joined the team. It's just, it becomes work. I believe you might be able to simplify that if you use security groups, but still, it's somebody has to then manage the security groups, which if that's automatically being done due to some other reason, right? So maybe do you have a security group from North America anyway, then that's not too bad, but it's just, in one way, it's just squeezing the bubble, right? It's just pushing the problem. So what I like to do is I like to do it based on exactly what Bowman is asking for, that I want to check the user email and have to show data related to as per org hierarchy. So here's what I would do. What I would do is I would source that data in from somewhere, right? So this would be I don't know, user, right? And which sales team are they a part of? And again, it's coming from a system, right? So it'll say, Avi, right? And let's bring John in, my favorite employee. No, there's nobody named John yet. And Stacy, right? So you do all that, and you say Avi Singh is in United States, John is in the Canada sales team, Stacy is in United Kingdom sales team. And actually you would have IDs there, you wouldn't have names, but I'm just using it because it's easier to show the point, right? So and let's say user access table, and again, you wouldn't create it the way I'm creating it, right? That's just for demo. What you would do is you would oops, I should have loaded it. You would source it in. Usually we would source it from the HR systems, because then we're like, dude, we don't want to touch it. Whatever the HR says, we'll source that in. So I assume Pawan is already doing that. And let's just see. Now, in reality, though, I should have added one more example. I'll talk about it. But in reality, if you look at this table, user access. You may not realize this now, but as soon as I say it, you'll say, yeah, of course that makes sense. Avi Singh, or any name, can have multiple rows. For instance, the manager of like the wholesales team, they would have access to everything. Maybe there's a manager who manages North America, right? So let's say Pawan is a manager, so it'll say Pawan at avisingh.com. Let's say he worked for us for a bit, and it'll say United States. And Pawan also has access to Canada. And of course, if Pawan was the worldwide manager, then it will keep repeating, and Pawan would have access to United Kingdom and all that sort of stuff, right? So these rows can be repeated. So let's go back over to a relationship view, user access. So this one is tied to the territory, right? In our case, I'm just moving things around, territory, and I'm just gonna move these. Oh gosh, come on, a little bit lower. Oh, actually, I guess I didn't need to do that. And here, you will connect these two together. Let's see what the default connection looks like. So right now, it's saying one to many, but that's because I didn't add the example of where a user repeats multiple times. Yeah, I think it'll be many to many. It'll be many to many, and you have to make sure that the filter is flowing this way. All right. So, and then when you manage roles here, you wouldn't restrict it by territory. You would restrict the user access table. So you will say, now it doesn't matter, frankly, what you name it now. And you will say user access. The user is, username. I think that one returns the email. So what's happening here is so let's see what a username does. So actually, username actually it's not going to help. It returns a weird thing on the desktop, but online it does return the email address. So online on PowerBI.com is where you need to test it. So user comes in, it says, hey, my email address is blah, 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 right? abc at whatever, contoso.com. And then it filters this table, right? So this table is filtered now, and that's the only thing it's filtering. And again, this is the table we sourced from HR. But then, because this has the right connection, it filters everything else. So it filters this, and since this is flowing to the sales table, it filters that. Now, if there is a table which is not connected to territories, it would not be filtered. But then, I'm not sure. Maybe if you have a scenario like that, I'm not sure what that means though. Like if you have a table which is not filtered, does user security not apply? Because if it does apply, I wouldn't go there now because I don't know if that is a scenario for you or not. But this one usually is exactly what you need. So let me know if this is the approach you have used, and if so, if it's not working, I don't know, maybe we'd need to have you call in as well. Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, Pawan, let me know if that is your approach. All right, so folks, let's keep right on going, and let's go to Steve's question. So Steve, do you have a file for me? And it's a pretty simple example, so it wouldn't take me that long to cook something up.
No, I don't have one.
Okay, no worries. Yeah,
I could probably put something together real quick if you wanted me to, but I think if you just opened up an Excel file and put a date in there.
Yeah. So let's say January 1, 2019, and then we'll say, so this is the date, and then
and just fill that down, as far as you want to go, and that would be the scenario.
Got it. And we'll say, oh, I should have kept, maybe I'll keep the random names just for the fun of it. Okay, so we'll say 1/1/2019, and I know it's your first row. So this. Well,
it would actually be say listen, if you kept the names, you could go up to like say column D or something and just put a date in there. you know, a D1. Doesn't matter
For the
where.
day? Oh, oops.
But it's the same date. It'll be the same date for all rows.
Got it. So we'll just solve for 2. Actually, we can, you know, we can solve for just 1. Okay, cool. So we'll go with that. So this is file 1. What is the format of your file? Is it Excel, CSV?
It's Excel. It's
with
actually
different files.
XLS, unfortunately, but
okay. Yeah.
It's yeah.
Yeah. Hey, remind me. Do you have to jump through any hoops to pull in an XLS file, or Power BI just, you know, connects to it?
Well, this one seemed to work okay. The file that I'm receiving seems to you know, behave itself. I know there are differences between the two. I've learned that lesson. But no, I didn't have any problems with this particular file.
Yeah. Somehow I'm thinking like I've been tripped up by XLS once in a while. But
yeah, I don't think that that's the issue in this particular case. This is sort of a generic, how do you keep from hard coding something that you're going to elevate to a header?
Yeah, got it. Okay. Okay, so let's bring in Power BI. We can do this here, I guess. So we'll say edit queries. All right, nice. Let's see. One second, guys. I was just... Okay, cool. All right, so let's bring that file. And so new source, Excel. And where is our talk Power BI? Okay, let's bring that one in. Now there is a way to tell the query editor to bring in all the sheets. I'm not going to use that right now. I'm just going to copy this. Oops.
Yeah, so well, the way I've been doing it, it just comes in as each day I get a file and they go into a folder. Yeah,
it's going to a folder, yeah. Got it. So navigation sheet 1, I'll just change this to sheet 2. So we have sheet 1. I'm just going to remove nulls, remove blank rows. Okay, so ignore that. That was just an Excel thing. But sheet 1 is this, the date, and sheet 2 is this, right? Okay, got it. But what I'm thinking is I'll combine it before I do bump the row to headers. I'll combine it at the level of column 1 and 2. Oh, wait. Yeah. I see what you're saying. No, I get the problem. Okay, cool.
So if you promote those headers.
So wait, what? So maybe I got the structure wrong. Like it says date, but then does it have the column headers here? Is this what it looks like? Something like that. Like the first row has headers, does have real headers, except for this one. It sounded like your file was something like this.
Yeah, that would be a good example of what what the problem may be.
So what I'm asking is, do the other columns have headers or not? Like, I mean, here, I wouldn't say use first row header.
Yes. This there's material below the top row that is where all the data is. They're just using this first row to identify the date.
Got it. And in the material, there are headers, right?
Yes.
Okay, and headers like that, or
everything else is falling below.
Okay, got it. Something like this.
The first row is only the date.
Got it. Okay.
Something like that.
So something like this. You got it here?
Yeah, that's close enough. Yeah. So
okay.
So what happens is when you promote the headers, that 2119 becomes a column name.
Yeah. So I think what you're doing is are you doing fill down and then something promote the header or something like that?
Yes. Yeah. It just shows up in a, no real structure. It's just up there to identify the file. Yeah. And then I fill down.
You got it.
I'd like to fill down and leave that top one blank. That would be even okay. As long as it's consistent from file to file, that's what I need.
Yeah, got it. So, I like Steve. I like your approach. And again, I at this point, I don't know. So I'll just go forth with it and see what I come up with. So let's see. So again, I changed the structure. So the first row has a date, and then we have some headers somewhere. And so one approach is, of course, to kind of fill down, and then so let's just duplicate this and try to do the two approaches. So this one we'll call approach 1, and we could say fill down, which is transform fill down. So now we got the dates going on over here, and then the first row was just kind of, and again we want to ignore that. So let's say we say home, remove rows, stop rows, and number of rows 1. And now, and again, imagine like this whole data set. It's got emails, it's got sales, it's got something else, lots and lots of stuff. So we have everything lined up. And notice we're going to use the first row as headers, but notice the problem that happens here is this becomes a first row header. And that's what Steve was talking about, that now it's hard-coded, and now if you say that this is date, the logic doesn't work across multiple files, because as you can see in the, I'll just open the advanced editor, like this is hard-coded in there. It's referring to 2/1/2019. So of course, if the file has anything different, this step is going to fail. So that's what. So let's actually duplicate this. So if you duplicate this, and I'm going to switch this to sheet 1, and show that it doesn't work. So I'm going to go to the navigation step, and here where it says sheet 2, I'm just going to say, oh shoot, I changed the structure of the sheets. Let me go back really quick. So I'll do the same structure. Name, email. Oh gosh. Oh, hold on. And okay, that looks better. So now sheet 1 has the exact same structure, but it has 1/1/2019. So I'm going to come back here, and here just change that to sheet 1. And this step works so far, but watch what happens. So change type still works. Well, that was a dummy change type anyway. Fill down still works. Remove top rows still works. Promoted headers still works. Change type is going to fail actually. So change type is going to fail, and even if you remove the change type, the automatic change type, I don't like, folks, but the renamed columns fails because this time the column was not 2/1/2019. So we see Steve's problem, and Steve had a different solution. Maybe Steve will have you. Oh well, yeah, you probably have sensitive data, but so you added the index. You added the index here.
I mean, the idea is you had to get that first cell had to be be consistent from file to file.
Oh yeah. I think I got your approach. So let's just walk it through that. So add column, you'll say index column, and now we have 0 to 1, and now you can do maybe a conditional column.
Exactly.
And you can say if the index is 0, if I'm at the very first row, then so real column, a real date column, something like that. And let's say if. So we'll say if index equals 0. If it's 0, then hard code it. It's date. Else use the value in column 1. And sheet 1 approach. Yep. So this works. And now what we can do is kind of delete this one. We don't need that. And index, we don't need index as well. And I love this part where if you used a column, now notice that we were using index to build this column. Date had the logic of index in there, but after you're done, you can delete it. And now if we promote headers, now we have consistent headers. We don't need to say, oh, if it's, so yeah, so this kind of works. This is approach 1. Let's see if there is another way to do it. And yeah, I'll just do it, and maybe we can come back, and we don't necessarily have to compare. We'll see if there are any obvious trade-offs. So if the column 1, if I know that that's where my value is, what I can do is just grab that value. So I'm just going to grab, like, I only care about this value, so I'm just going to grab that one. So for that, I'm going to say insert step after, and so it's referring to the previous step right now. So previous step. So from that previous step, what I want the first row. It's a 0 base index, so 0 is the first row. And in there, I want the value of column 1. Let's see if I got it right. I don't always get it right.
Yeah.
Cool. So I got 1/1/2019. Oh gosh. So notice it didn't really add a step. It messed up my navigation somehow. So sometimes it does that. Let me go back. Let me do it here. So we'll say sheet 2, approach 2. Okay, maybe I'll do that here. So I'll say and oh gosh, I don't want. Okay, good, navigation. And usually when I do this stuff, what I do is something like, I'll leave it as is, and I'll name this step. I'll say this is the original source. Right, so this is my file is, and then I add, so I'll say insert step after, and I leave a marker. When I do funky things like this, I'll say get date for this file. So I'll leave a marker, and then I'll say now I'm getting the date for the file, and then I'll say give me 0, the same thing that I've done, and column, and everything else was just pretty much documentation, that stuff that I did. So I now grab the date, and then I'll say something like rename merge date, continue processing. All right, so guys, I know I'm taking the long route, but again, I mean, this is kind of small stuff, but it really helps. And again, I always try to like rename these things. Like I wouldn't say custom 1. I would say this is file date. This is the date of the file. So continue processing, and in here, I will, instead of file date, I'll change this back to original source. Well, otherwise, how the heck would I continue processing, right? So now, if everything worked right, basically we're back where we started. So this original source, let's see, yep. So you notice here, hold on one second, guys. Move me out of the way. All right, so this original source, you know what, really move me out of the way. Okay. So this original source, I mean, so I did basically a detour, right? I did this detour, figured out some information in the file, but then continue processing is obviously, it refers to original source. So I'm back where I started, but I have this information saved somewhere. So I call this self-referencing inside the query. You don't necessarily have to do it this way. If you, maybe, man, I mean, oh gosh, Steve, this deserves a gold star. Because again, so gold star, for those who've been here long enough, is the question that seems kind of simple. It's a real business scenario that has to be given, not some, oh, what if this happened? No, it's like a real business scenario, and it seems simple, but it kind of isn't. So well, I'll make an estimate of when we started, maybe 9:45, 9:50 maybe. Steve, date in header, how to process without hard coding, and yay. Okay, so we got that. So let's come back here, and we'll do sheet 2, approach 2. So we are self-referencing, but then let's continue processing. So here, what we can do is we can just delete this column. We don't need that. We already have that value. So we delete that, and then we can go through the rest of the stuff. Oops, remove top rows, 1 row, and then we'll say use first row as headers. That bumps it up. And I love this part. So anything that's, so one thing which was really eye-opening for me was when I realized that these steps, so once you start looking, by the way, the best way to learn the M or the query editor language is to turn on the formula bar up here. And you do that by just going to the view and check that. That should be default. And I think it's, well, by default it's turned off. And you just start looking at it, and it starts kind of making sense to you. Yeah, I think it's logical. I mean, you look at that and it's like, yeah, I see what you're doing for most stuff. Like, I mean, look at that, removed columns. Like, I get it. You know, column 1, yeah, that's the one that I removed. So let's come back here. Ignore that, change type. So here we promoted the headers. And what was I going to do? Oh, yeah. So I'm glad I found my track. So what I was saying was the big revelation for me was that once you start looking at the formula bar, you would notice that these steps are sequential. This one feeds this one feeds this one feeds this one. Or to put it another way, normally this step refers to the previous step, which refers to the previous step, which refers to the previous step, and so on. But the breakthrough is you don't have to. You can refer to any which way you want. This can refer to that one. And of course, in this case, we did have this step refer to this step. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another step and use our file date. So I'm going to come in here and say add column, custom column. And I'll say date. And I'll just say the name of the step. That's it. So file date. And I'm going to cross my fingers. Oh, boom, it worked. All right. So that's kind of one way to do it. And I'll say add, rename, file date. All right, so Steve, I mean, clearly, that works. Great, awesome. Now, and again, I think in this case, I'm not necessarily sure if one is kind of better than the other. Frankly, in a lot of cases, it doesn't matter. It can matter. Yeah, go ahead.
It may not matter from a practical standpoint.
Yeah.
But just conceptually. Get this date and put it in a column.
I know. Oh, yeah, exactly. This approach of you can pluck a piece of data in here and just use it elsewhere is incredibly powerful. So that's great. So folks, I'm going to dwell in here a little bit. So here, what you saw was kind of self-referencing, where we were referencing a single value. Sometimes you don't reference a single value, you reference a table. And we just used that yesterday. It was Amdi who had brought in this amazing question about allocating budgets. And what we ended up doing was that imagine in the budget, you can see my style here. I'll stay back here. So imagine we started off with a budget file, and then what we did was we created a sub table. So it wasn't a single value. It was like a table. I'm trying to draw a table here. There we go, right? And then when we continued processing, we did a merge. We did a query editor merge between this table and essentially itself. So yeah, so this technique of self-referencing either a single value or a table is just phenomenally powerful. Now, what we're going to do is, and this is one reason why this got a gold star, is I'm going to show you an alternate approach. So if this kind of hurt your head, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. What did Avi do? Don't fret, all right? Because man, Power BI is awesome. That's why I love it. So let's do it a completely different way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this and start over. Let's actually, create a new group for this because it deserves it. It's going to be worthy. So we'll say 2019-03-28. I already used alternate. So let's say simplified approach. And in the description, I'll say avoids self-referencing. Okay, so we have this one, and I'm going to move this guy, move to group simplified approach. So now we're here, sheet 2 approach, and I'm just going to get rid of all of this. We don't need this. Okay, hold on, guys. Let me just. I'm sure there was a quicker way to do this. Okay, so we'll say sheet 2 step 1. So data step 1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to reference this. So we're going to reference this, and I'll say sheet 2, and we're building. We're going to get this file date. Okay, so for this one, if somebody knows like a way that this can be done without getting into M, I would love to know. Like, is there an option which says, give me this value? I don't know if there is. So the only one that I know is I'm going to go in here, sheet 2, step 1, and do the same M code that I did earlier. 0 refers to the first row, and then you can just use the column name. And I'm also going to point out to the folks who are in the course. So this one, I think, I'm trying to remember. I think it's in the pro level, but I covered this. So mini course, ultimate calendar. Oh yeah, functions in the query editor. Let's see. Yeah, so this is where this is my cheat sheet of like how to refer to the first row, zero-based index, how to refer to a column, and yeah, that can take you a long way. So that's in there. So let's come back here. So now we got the value. Cool. So and again, I mean, you notice that you have a different icon here because query editor understands that, oh yeah, this is a table. This one is I guess a scalar value or whatever it's called. Interesting icon. Really, it's just highlighting a single cell. So we got that, and then we'll go back and we'll reference it again, and we'll say sheet 2, step 2, final, something like that. So we can come in here, and then we can do the processing. We can the same way we had done that. So we will say remove this one, remove top rows, and we'll say first row is headers. These steps are the same ones. And then when we say add column, custom column, we're not self-referencing because we don't have to self-reference. We have that stored over here. So we're not referencing, right? So we'll say date, and now we're going to reference sheet 2 file date. Ooh, I'm already seeing the trade-offs between these two approaches. Cool, so that worked, and it didn't use self-referencing. So self-referencing is like, I don't get it. That hurts my head. And believe me, I remember I was at a point where this would have like, I don't want to deal with this. It's just too overwhelming, and that's okay. So one thing I like about this, it is simpler. It's simpler. Somebody can understand it step by step. I mean, this is the extent of kind of M code that they'll, let's say, oh, 0 column 1, and if you know a little bit, it'll start to seem intuitive to you. And another thing that I like it is, and of course, so query editor, I call it the kitchen of Power BI. It's incredible, my friends. It's built, its sole purpose to clean shape transform data. That's why it has tools like this to be able to see it visually what's happening. So what we did with sheets, the new approach, I want to go to that one. And oh gosh, actually, maybe I should have done it slightly differently. Let me do it slightly differently. So we'll say sheet 2, and we'll say step. Oh, I see, got it. So I'll make the final one. Sorry guys, one thing. So we'll make this step 2 and not add the custom column. So we did some processing in the core file, name and email, and then we'll create the final. And I'm getting there. Okay, got it. And we'll say add column, custom column. Once I do show you the query editor, you'll see what I'm trying to do here. Sheet 2. Oh no, sheet 2 file date. Okay, so we got the same end result, but watch what happens in the query dependencies view. If I did it right. Let's see. Oops. Maximize it. Oh, nice. Oh, you can't. Yeah, so you can see, and I wish it wouldn't put it on the far side, but you see what's happening. Yeah, so ignore this one. Ignore this guy. Only so again, that's what I'm saying. So this one, by the way, you can click on an item and it lights all the related ones. So I'm clicking on Sheet 2 Final to see how Sheet 2 Final is built. And you can see that, oh, what we do is we get this file, whatever, this data XLS, and we get it here. And from there, we determine the file date. So this module determines file date. This one does some other processing. And you can be more descriptive. You can say step 2 cleanup or something like that, and then you bring it together. So man, I mean, visually this is so powerful. If you have complicated queries, a lot of complicated steps, if you build this module by module. So I always talk about this for building DAX measures, where I say I build measures like Lego blocks. I build simpler ones and then I combine them to build more complicated ones. You can use the same approach for a query editor as well, and it's just incredibly powerful because yeah, it helps you understand. If you're transitioning to somebody else, it helps everybody else understand. So this is a good approach, an alternative approach to using self-referencing. So you don't have to use self-referencing. What are the drawbacks? Well, obviously you can see that we ended up with like 4 different things. So it can clutter things up a little bit. You can try to keep organized. And again, it's not one is good or bad. It's just trade-offs that you have to understand. So the pros for this is that I think it's simple to understand. It looks beautiful in the query dependencies view. It really lets you understand exactly just visually how the query is being built, right? So you can examine it, debug it if you need to step by step. So that's advantage. The disadvantage is that it's a little bit of a clutter. The other one, did everything in just a single query. It's like boom, 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 right? And of course, in Steve's scenario, I'm not 100% sure that you can use this approach and generalize it over multiple files. I have a feeling that you can. Oh gosh, yeah. For multiple files, it may not be possible. So for Steve, it might be just his index approach or this approach. All right, cool. Awesome, Steve. Gosh, that was good. I enjoyed it. Let me know, guys, what you thought about that. And we'll swing over and check some comments. All right, what's going on? Oh yeah. I didn't realize that. So Solitaire Kid, apologies for that. So yeah, we went in and scheduled like 20 Talk Barbie events in the future, and I didn't realize that. Oh gosh, I'm gonna note that down. Oh, I feel kind of bad. Oh gosh, I feel like. Hold on, guys. Okay. Hey, Chris. Let's came up and talk. Whew. Well, thank God. Thank you for sending us that feedback. That's great. I had no idea. Sam, Active Directory additionally checks your relationship window. Striving columns a single direction, then use cross filter. Okay. Haha. All right. Awesome. Pedro, hey Avi, I have a matrix visual that shows me for each rate and person the date. Add a filter. Learn Power BI. Well, yeah. So, I mean, depends on the day you ask me. Sometimes I feel like, yeah, of course, learning Power BI. It's it's the core concepts. I do believe in that. It's important. That's, I think, the difference between Power BI versus maybe some other tools like Excel. Excel, you can pick it up like on the go, like 1,000 tips and tricks. That's how I picked up Excel. I did read some books, but here and there. But I would look over somebody's shoulder, and I would see them using VLOOKUP. I'm like, oh, cool. Now I know how to do that, or something else. But Power BI, if you don't kind of focus on the core concepts, then it becomes a very uphill battle. Power BI has this weird dynamic where it's easy, but it's hard. So it starts off really easy, you're having a lot of fun, and then, boy, before you know it, you're like, oh boy, how do I do this? How do I do this? Oh my God, this is so frustrating. And a good signal is when you start saying these words, we're like, oh, this was so much easier in Excel. Believe me, guys, I lived in Excel. Excel is not easier, right? But if you start feeling that way, then yeah, you've kind of missed it, right? So of course, what I try to do in the platform is I try to give them there's a bit of learning curve, but make that journey shorter, because on the other side of it, it does get easier, right? It gets easier to the point, where how do I stop drawing? It does get easier to the point where you are it's you feel like the data is a playground, right? So it gets easy, gets really hard, does get easy again, but I don't know, some people might just even give up in that journey, and I don't want you to give up or take too long, right? I mean, so that's the option of learning Power BI, but I also feel sometimes that learning is overrated, right? So what I see my students kind of struggling or mentioning a lot of times is, and I kept hearing that to the point where I'm like, no. So what I keep hearing is, oh, I need to get good at Power BI. Oh, I need to go through the course. I need to go through the course again. I need to learn, and I need to know more Power BI. And what they're doing is they're using that almost as an excuse to not actually start using it. They would feel like that. I can't take on a Power BI project right now, either internal or external with the client, because I need to first learn Power BI. And we've had discussion with the students where I've said, if you kind of have a choice between, going through my course versus just diving into a project and then coming to me or the class community for help, and hey, if it is something in the course, we'll just point you to that part. I'll always prefer the latter, right? So that's where the good stuff is. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe both are important. You got to have your core concepts in place, but the real learning comes from doing. And of course, that's what the whole YouTube channel and my course and everything is structured around as well. That's the reason why I come online, because you guys are out in the field, out in the front lines. I want to be able to support you. So all my followers through Talk Power BI, and all my students through all the programs we run inside the class. So yeah, folks, just dive in. All right. How to approach where stuck? You got to get help. So nobody knows all of Power BI. I don't know all of Power BI, and be cool with it. Don't let that stop you. Don't let that stop you for 1 second. And of course, we do different things in our course. There are different kind of levels of help. Our community is pretty awesome. So of course, you can go to a general community out there, right? Of course, join the Stock Power BI. There are Power BI community threads, discussions all over. The way we do it, and we feel it's special, is we have our own student group, and we feel it's special because of a few reasons. For one, folks, it's a paid group, and believe me, I've been part of a lot of groups, Facebook or not. I mean, Facebook is just a technology we're using. It doesn't matter, but which are free versus paid, and the quality of interaction and all that is very different in a paid group, because it's you know, it's kind of a higher bar. Obviously, you're only going to have people who are committed to some level be joining this group, so the quality is higher. Another advantage is that they're not like some random people. Everybody has gone through the same course, so they are all kind of aligned in the same direction. They've gotten the same kind of core concepts, so you're not going to get, you know, kind of this random advice, because sometimes you go on a Power BI board and there's a SQL expert who's, you know, good at Power BI, but they have their own lens of looking at things. And one thing that I feel about Power BI is it's as much unlearning as it's learning. Because if you come from an Excel background or SQL, you have to shed those habits, because this is a new world. Those rules don't really apply. And I see people tripping themselves up, getting in trouble, where they keep doing it, operating in like Excel or like SQL, and both of those approaches are wrong. So yeah, everybody has gone through the same course, so you get kind of a different level of help. And of course, the new thing we're experimenting with is Slack. So that is for the pro level of our course. And I'm pretty happy with Slack. It's given us a lot more options for kind of deeper interaction. So we're trying that. Of course, we do live calls and other stuff. But short message, just as long as you're doing it, and when you get stuck, get help using whatever means are available to you. That's important. If you can get some structured learning, obviously my course is just one of the many available out there. Just pick a structured course that you really like, who covers focus on the core concepts, and that you gotta kind of understand. So you can see the way I approach it is it's almost in the order of, you know, so Zero to Dashboard, that one is available on YouTube. Go to my channel to find that. And then I focus on the query editor, relationships, DAX, visuals, and the PowerBI.com platform. That's the main course, and then we go beyond. So if you go on my channel, the Zero to Dashboard is right up top. In fact, the top, this Learn Power BI section, this has got lots of good stuff to get started. Okay, hopefully that helps. Let's. I feel like we had something in park. You know, I saw Pedro's question, and I think we had an earlier question from. What is in park? Amandeep. So let's open the call-in lines and see how that goes. Oh, you know what? Before that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this file. I'm going to save this file into our folder. And folks, if you want access to that, just go to talkpowerbi.com, and that'll give you access to our notes, all the files from the past, everything else, including this one. So we'll say this one was 2019 0328, and this we talked about, you know, query. So I'll just say Steve, query editor self referencing. That's probably going to be enough to remind me. Cool. So let's let's do the call-in. While I'm putting that up, we have Peter on the call. Peter, good to have you join. Peter, if you I would love to check in with you really quick. So Peter, by the way, is participating. He's one of the participants in our Real Power BI project. You probably had heard about that on our channel. If not, then I'll put the link to the video. And the idea of Real Power BI is really simple. We bring business users
and their peers
and with real business projects and match them up with students in class. So Peter, you've had a meeting with your client, right?
Yes. Well, good afternoon. Is it morning or afternoon, Avi?
It's morning. Yeah. So Peter, you're based in the United Kingdom, right?
Yes, I'm based in UK.
Nice.
So we've had our first initial meeting, and it went well. Myself, Frank, myself, and Mark with Macari.
Yeah,
it went
nice.
well. We just it was just basic familiarization with ourselves. We had to understand from the client more about what the problem is, and what he's looking to get
Got it.
by the end of the project.
Awesome, great. And you checked off all the check boxes that you had, right? Where you have a follow-up schedule with them, you have access to the data, or know how you're going to be getting access to the data and so forth.
Yes, we've done that. We've had to create a group, a Slack channel for the group, just for the project specifically.
Wow.
And
nice.
Yeah, we've gone ahead to ask him to provide us with a descriptive of contextual information about the reports, that's the current existing reports.
Got
We've
it.
asked
Awesome.
for a mock-up of the data model at the moment. And we've asked him to be specific on the exact business process he wants us to measure in the initial sprint.
Nice.
And we've agreed on a weekly meeting every Thursday going forward.
Got it. And hey, was there anything that you wanted to ask me, or any help that you needed around that? I know you have Mark to support you as well.
I think one of the main concern then was how we are going to share the data from his side. But I am thinking, I don't know if I'm right for now, I'm thinking that if he has a Power BI service already functioning within his organization, he can publish the existing data model to the server for us to access. But I don't know if there's a different suggestion you have.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. So how to share data? So you said if he has a Power BI published, maybe on PowerBI.com.
No, I'm thinking that if the business has Power BI service at the moment, we can ask him to publish it to the PowerBI.com for us to ask him.
I usually don't go that route. And so within the consultants that I've worked with and I've hung out with, the general consensus was that when working with a client, so sometimes we go in there and there's nothing that's been done in Power BI, right? And then we start from scratch, right? So let's say, oops. So we go to client and you start from scratch by connecting to the data. And sometimes this is the only option. Or sometimes they have a Power BI model, right? And we all agreed that we would always prefer to start from scratch. And we were joking that, man, even if like we had to pay them, because starting with someone else's Power BI model, usually I've found it pretty challenging, unless they really know what they're doing. So most people, like I would say 99 out of 100 people who are using Power BI don't really know how to use it. You know, they just don't think the way we think. Like, hey, you got to build a model. They wouldn't even know the term model, and they're just building a report and just kind of slapdash like, yeah, I put it there, I put this graph, and this is what I built, right? And you know, so it becomes extremely challenging to work with something like that. Even if they have some knowledge and understanding, it's still easier to kind of start from scratch, right? So my general preference would be just start from scratch. Yeah, right. So if they have built something, you definitely want to look at it. You definitely want to look at it and say, hey, have you built something in Power BI? Show that to me. And frankly, so you've probably heard me talk about this before about selecting the project, like how to select the project, right? It's about that. So I don't like to recreate Excel reports. I think that's a fool's errand, right? So if somebody says, oh, here's my report in Excel, I want to do the same thing in Power BI, that's fraught with danger. I mean, it's a slippery slope. There's so many ways you can go wrong. For one, Power BI isn't Excel. You put yourself at a disadvantage, right? I mean, you're not playing by Power BI rules. So what I like doing is I like to solve a problem, kind of the low-hanging fruit. So something which was hard or impossible in the old world, but it's easy, really easy in Power BI world. So that's what I look for in the first project. So on the same lines, I would probably not like try to recreate their Power BI report either. I would try to find some other corner. I would say, well, what else is in data? What else would be interesting? Which is kind of low effort and kind of big value. So do you know, did Michael, your client, mention that they have used Power BI or they have Power BI models?
No, they've not used it.
Awesome.
He said
that's good. That's good news.
The static data is on an SQL database.
Oh, okay, got it.
So,
got it.
hello?
Yep, perfect. Yep. So SQL
Hello?
database, right? Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so
on a
SQL
SQL
database. Perfect,
So
right.
now we don't know how do we share?
Yeah.
How do we share and access the files?
Yeah,
The
well,
database
yeah,
or
so
the data?
Well, so the simplest approach is, and I would highly recommend it, that they export it to Excel, right? And of course, that one should be super easy for them because all they have to do is go to an Excel file and say get data from SQL Server, and just pull the table in, right? So that's what I would recommend. Now, if their data set is too big, then they can do a subset, right? So if too big, do a subset. And I usually don't like to do subset by date. So we'll say, oh, I'll just give you a month's worth of data. I don't like that because time intelligence is one of the strongest things in Power BI. And if you just give me 1 month, I can't do year over year. I can't do rolling 12 months. I can't do any of that. So do a subset, but not by time, by something else. Like if they have multiple plants, then, oh, we're only going to pull data from plant 1. If they have multiple locations, then, oh, we're only going to pull data from for Canada or something maybe smaller, right? Something like that. So, so if it is too big, if it's not too big, if it's less than 1 million rows, who cares? Just put it in. Just put it in. Gosh, Excel is awesome, right? So export to Excel, that's going to be the most powerful. And this is going to be the most powerful because you can freely use Query Editor to clean shape transform data. That's what Query Editor is for. Once they give you an Excel file, and you have to let them know. They might freak out on this a little bit. Like, oh no, I don't want to use Excel files. And you can let them know that this is an interim step. I'll say communicate to the client that, hey, this is just an interim step. Let them know. Ease their concerns. Bring it up yourself, and this lets us move faster. And once we're done, we would switch it to directly connect to your SQL Server. Your SQL Server, right? Emphasize, right? So, and all right. So let's play this out. They export the data in Excel, give you the files through, OneDrive, whatever you have, right? So, share via shared OneDrive folder, Dropbox, whatever. And again, the module that I had sent you that has some of this detail as well. So so you can go back and watch it again if you need to. So what I typically do is I create a OneDrive folder and give them a read-write link. That way we can both, they can add files, we can add files, we can all kind of collaborate and so forth, right? So, so if they can put data on there, we can put our Power BI model, have them check it, our PBX file, so you can collaborate it that way. So they export the data, and then you go to town in the query editor by connecting to Excel and shaping the data the way you need it, and build the whole project. It'll be done. And when you're ready to switch, you would come in there, and wherever it's referencing the source's Excel workbook, you need to swap that out to an Excel connection. And we can cross that bridge when you get there. I mean, it's not that hard, but I don't think we need to kind of really show it right now here. But so you would switch it to SQL, and it'll be all awesome. Now, for a second, I want to talk about the other suggestion, which is tempting, which is like, what if they put all the data into a PBIX file and give it to us, right? So what they do is they go to a new Power BI file, not this existing one, and then they say, new source, SQL Server, and they bring in all the tables in and give it to you, right? So that sounds like a solution, but it's a problematic one. Here's why. Because once you get it, you're essentially offline. You're not connected to the SQL Server anymore. What that would mean is that this is the consultant, would not be able to. Oh, I just realized that I didn't share the screen on here. Well, yeah, I don't know if it'll help. Okay, cool. You would not be able to use the query editor. When you would go into the query editor, if you need to clean shape transform, it'll try to connect to the SQL Server, and yeah, it would be problematic. So I wouldn't recommend it. Not recommended. Yeah, so I'll say, just say, hey, export Excel, simple, works great, and you can later switch it to the SQL Server. Go with that.
Okay. Then, right. Sorry if I might add, I know you still, maybe you have something else to say, but excuse me, he was of the opinion that he will, while yes, he's happy for us to collaborate on the project, he wants to learn, he wants to understand what we're doing too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We should lead with that. And of course, we were discussing in our Six Figures call earlier as well, where I think I want everybody who's really in my program to go with the approach. So there's a line that I use when I'm consulting. I'm always training. It's odd, you know. Okay. So when I'm consulting, I'm always training. And of course, I do the opposite as well. When I'm training, I'm always consulting as well, because you've seen, okay, I mean, on our calls, I solve real problems that they're having, right? So it's kind of emerged for me. But I really think that we should lead with that. For one, I think it's the right thing to do, right? So we're not trying to make them dependent on us. So but every time they mention something like that, you say, hey, that is my number one goal. My number one goal is to empower you. We don't want you dependent on us. We want to support you to rise and shine, right? So we'll absolutely do that way. Now, of course, there's a little bit of a kind of a practicality. So let's see in your scenario. So let's talk about when I generally work. What do I do? So again, we'll come back and adapt it to your situations. When I usually work with the clients, it's usually on a very intense engagement, 1 to 3 day, and often it's on site. And so we are in a conference room, and I always say that whoever your designated Power BI person is, who would be taking this over, make sure they're in the room, and they're there for the whole duration. If I'm there for 3 days, they're there with me in the conference room. And what we do is I put it up on the projector so they can see what I was doing, and I always think out loud. So as I'm building the model, I'll explain. I'll say, this is what I'm doing now. This is why I'm doing it. All of that sort of stuff, and they're just absorbing it as they go. Right. So that's my approach, and I would definitely So, but for your approach, this is going to be different. Just for one, gosh, it's a real Power BI. It's it's a free project, so you're taking time out of your life to do this, and I think the expectation should be different. So for remote projects, usually there is a check-in each week. So it's not going to be as intense as this. This is not going to be as much of a mind meld with this. But when you check in each week, do share them the progress and tell them kind of why we did it this way. Decision points. So I'm going to try to remember how I see modeling now. So what is modeling? What is creating a model in Power BI? It is, so far, I think it's 3 things. So the first 2 that I discovered was, the first one was that is decision points. Right? You come to a decision and you say, like we were doing with Steve earlier, do I use approach 1 or approach 2? Do I use an index or do I use self-referencing? Do I use self-referencing or I do separate queries? All of these small and big decisions. Do I do this in the query editor or do I do it here? All of that sort of stuff. So there are these decision points, which when I'm building a model, I now document them. I say, decision point, I call it out. If I'm in a room, I yell out loud, like, guys, decision point, where I hear, and we're deciding this, and this is why. So I'll document it as I go along. So modeling is kind of decision points. And it's also, this is the next lesson that I learned, assumptions. And before I realized it, I was making assumption. Every model is built on a set of assumptions, but sometimes we don't realize that. So those are important. For example, you may be doing a transformation where you assume that the first 3 letters in the column have the month name. You would make an assumption sometimes without even thinking about it, but if that assumption changes, your model can break, right? So that one is a little bit of a silly example, but yeah, now I'm more aware of these, that, oh, we're going to assume that something. So watch out for these. And the third one, if I can remember, oh yeah. This is my newest lesson is scoping. And I realize now when I look back at all the projects that I've done, that we are constantly fine-tuning the scoping. And mostly, I would say, 90-95% of the time, we scope down. Less is more. So instead of saying, oh, we can do this, we at least in the initial project, we say, yeah, cool, we can do all of those things, but we're going to focus just on this right now. That's all we're going to focus on. And we are constantly doing that. So, right, so any of these 3 things happen, you kind of communicate. And besides that, of course, in your model, you can say, hey, we pulled the data in, we cleaned it up in the query editor, show him some steps in the query editor, some key steps, and say, hey, this is what we did, this is what we needed to do, and this is what it looks like. So obviously, you're not going to have that much time here, so the training is going to be kind of compact. Another thing that I think you can do and also communicate is what you can, and again, I mean, be practical, because for real Power BI, you have limited time, right? So, and that's why, frankly, the scope is really important. It's really important that you keep the scope, nice and tight, right? It's just because it's about delivering something rather than solving all of the problems. So the idea for self-documenting model is what you saw me do a little bit earlier, where I do things like this, right? Where I add these delimiters and rename things. I don't have to. If I don't do that, then it's not going to have this. And instead of file date, it's going to say custom 1. That's not very readable and understandable. So you can say that, hey, to the best of our ability, we're going to build a kind of self-documenting model so that you can follow this yourself. So maybe you don't explain them anything. You just give them the file. Hey, this is the latest file. This is the query that I've done. You can go in there, go step by step, and just understand yourself, right? If you want to learn, go ahead. Just go step by step and see what I'm doing there. If you have any questions, let me know, right? So that's going to lessen the load on you. Now you don't have to explain them everything. You say, hey, you go through this. It's well documented, commented out, and go through it. Everything should make sense. If it doesn't, let me know. That's one approach, and that's on the side of the query editor. On the side of the model, you can do similar things. You can, by the way, of course, in query editor, you can go beyond. You can add comments and all this stuff. But if you go back to a model, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. So you can go to a measure and add a description for that, right? And so forth. So those bits can help. You can try that. Self-documenting, query editor, rename, steps, etc. DAX, measures, add description, and you can also use comments inside the measure.
Okay.
So what you can do is you can say, let's find a measure. And in here, I think you can say something like, well, obviously, you're not going to say comment. You're going to say, oh, I'm doing it this way because, and obviously, I only do this for something which is kind of complicated, kind of, somewhat really complicated. So, but I'll say, I'm doing this and doing that. I'm doing this and doing that. So you can add kind of comments there as well. Now, and again, but for you got to kind of balance all of this with the timeline, right? So, I think that the minimum that you can promise without doing anything on your part is that you are obviously giving them PBIX, and that's like giving somebody the source code, right? So I say, hey, don't worry about learning and all this stuff. Whatever PBIX file we have, Power BI desktop file, you would have access to it as well. So you can at any time examine it yourself, see what we're doing in the query editor, in DAX. You would have access to all of that. And if you have any questions, let me know, right? So what you're doing is now, frankly, if you do this, you don't necessarily have to do like the self-documenting part and all that stuff. You don't have to kind of proactively teach them anything. You let them examine it and come to you. So you can kind of balance that. All right. Did that help?
Yes, that helped a lot. It has opened my eyes to solutions we never thought about initially.
Great. I will admit.
We never imagined.
Yeah, I'll admit that this stuff becomes, so this is the first project. So frankly, I just want you guys to get done. Get to a finish line. That's the most important, because when you get there, when you have a full solution, man, it feels so empowering. It feels amazingly empowering. And frankly, I'll admit that. I don't quite fully remember the feeling that I had. I'm sure I felt pretty awesome for the first project. I know that every step after that, I mean, you go like, whoa, I did that? Oh, that's awesome, right? But I've seen so many students go through the first project, and it just becomes this powerful thing. And I want everybody to get to that point, to have that experience. So that's the most important. But all of the things that we discussed, they become more and more important as you start engaging on more and more projects and bigger projects, right? Then this stuff becomes really important. Man, if you don't comment that stuff, and then they come back and say, hey, our measure isn't working, or is showing the wrong number, you would be in trouble. Forget about the client and their learning. You would look at your model and you'd be like scratching head like, oh my gosh, what did I do last month, right? So it becomes more important over time. For this one, it's not as important. And again, I mean, if you compare Power BI to any other solution, you can do that as well. You can contrast Power BI with other solutions. So to rest their concerns that, hey, Michael, you don't even have to worry about it. Power BI is a new breed of software. This is unlike anything else you've ever seen, right? So the old solutions, either there were 1,000 Band-Aid and duct tape and all that stuff in Excel, which was, crazy to understand. Like, oh, this refers to that, this refers to this. Power BI isn't like that. It's got measures, you define ones, use everywhere. Query editor, self-document. You can go step by step, right? Or, so the one solution was either the Excel Band-Aid and duct tape, which was always got crazy to understand, especially as the project grew. Or you would have some high-end solution which used SQL Server integration services, or God forbid, some coding. Actually, a lot of solutions would use coding, so Visual C++, C#, something like that, JavaScript. And yeah, you had to had all those skills to understand. Not for Power BI. It's so much more accessible and easier. So you can also kind of approach it that way. Cool. Awesome, man. Good question. And Godspeed, my friend. So folks, we are going to be doing like a finale presentation for our real Power BI projects on Talk Power BI in one of the featured sessions. We'll set that up. And it's going to be pretty cool. We'll look forward to that. Thanks, Peter. Okay, so gosh, I opened the line, but I forgot to share the link.
All right, Avi, just before you go,
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Peter.
I just want to say thank you for the pointers and directions.
Absolutely. Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Glad to help. Yep. Great. All right, let's say, so what I was doing here was... Oh, yeah. So if you have joined TalkPowerBI.com, call it the Talk Power BI Insiders Club. By the way, we are going to be doing something exciting. We're lining it up for April right now. The tentative date is April 18th. We'll be having a masterclass being taught not by me, but a real financial expert. So I'm a faker. I'm not a CPA or anything. I just worked with finance and finance folks for a long time. I know enough to get around, but we're going to have a real finance expert, Pam Baker. You've probably seen her on my channel. She's pretty amazing. Be teaching this masterclass. Right now, the tentative date is April 18th. It is meant for our Learn Power BI student community, but we're going to invite members in our Talk Power BI Insiders Club. So if you haven't join that. It's just talkpowerbi.com. And we're going to have limited seats, though. So, so we'll send out an invite to Talk Power BI and kind of the first come, first serve. You get it. So let's see. The link lines are open. So I apologize, guys. I got caught up with Peter and all that, but that was great discussion. And again, if you join these calls with like, oh, let me get my question answered, you're missing the point. I mean, because there's an opportunity to learn from everybody else's questions, especially if you help me in answering them. Right? Put your perspective, share your thoughts. Absolutely, I love that. And so, by the way, the structure of this program, a lot of the stuff that I do, including the classes that I do with my students, it comes from an amazing, amazing out-of-the-world program for entrepreneurs that I'm a part of. I'm so glad that I didn't waste my money on an MBA. All the MBAs are like, oh, Avi, what are you saying? MBAs are awesome. I don't know. I'm glad I didn't go the MBA route because I think, frankly, school taught me nothing. I mean, I went and studied computer science at University of Washington. There was not a single thing that I learned there that I directly applied in my work. So I think MBA, I feel sometimes can be the same. So I'm a part of an entrepreneurs program where we do similar stuff. And again, I experienced that myself, where I was learning on these calls, not just from my own questions, but from everybody else's questions. And when I got the courage, just by trying to help others. And the first time you try to help somebody and they go, oh, thank you. I'm like, oh, okay, nice. I helped somebody. Oh gosh, it's an unbelievable feeling. So that is pretty powerful. So yeah, that's good stuff. So folks, if you're still on, let's do kind of call in, talk to me, ask your questions, and I'm gonna paste the call in link here, and see if I have any takers. You guys are mostly shy, I've seen, like the I don't know, YouTube crowd. I don't know, but that's okay. So
hey, Avi.
Yeah. Hey, Steve.
This is Steve. Hey, there's Pedro has a question. And he's posted several times, so he's anxious.
Oh, okay. Pedro, can you call in? I really want to talk to you. I did note your question. I didn't note it in the parking lot. Yeah, but it was sometimes... yeah, so let's see. And Steve, thank you for pointing it out.
Yeah, I think it needs a little more explanation. I don't quite get it myself.
Okay, so Pedro, you have the call-in link right there, the zoom.us link. And it'll be best if you call in. I'll save you some typing as well. But I'll start going through your notes. Yeah, so folks, we've had some pretty magical stuff on this call. If you remember one of the earlier Talk Power BI, man, I was blown away. Right? I mean, there's no other way to react. So this gentleman from Australia joined, and we solved the problem for him. I don't even remember what it was. But he said, his words were, this was worth getting up at 3 a.m. I've been trying to solve this for 12 months. And I'm like, all right, awesome, man. You made my day. So, yeah, and of course, you've also seen me kind of fall flat on my face at times. And I've been told that you learn from that too. So I'm glad to hear that. All right, we have a caller on the line. I heard a bell. Who is it? Pedro. Hey, Pedro. Your mic looks live. Go ahead and say hello to me. Let's see if the mic is working.
Yeah. Hello.
Oh, hi there. Hey, if you're watching me on YouTube, mute me on YouTube there. Otherwise, I'll keep hearing myself. And what I'm gonna. Okay. Once you muted that, yeah, just say hello again, and we'll see if that works.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay, awesome. And let's. I was trying to do something here. Screen 2. Okay, great. So let's hold on. Let me get set up here and officially kind of put you on the docket. So 10:56. Oh, nice. So I'm just going to read it out. I have a matrix visual that shows me for each rate and person the date. I've had a filter to see only those that have more than one date for each person and rate. Result export data is blank. Ooh.
Yeah, the idea is to see.
So hey, is there any way you can kind of share your screen and show this to us? And again, I mean, we're live on YouTube, so only if it doesn't have anything sensitive or something like that.
Sure.
Awesome, great. So
how would I send you?
Yeah. So on the you can share your screen, or did you say you want to send me the file? We can do it either way.
what is better for you?
Let's just share your screen. If I need the file, I'll ask you. But so
Okay.
on the Zoom call that you dialed in from, there should be a green link down at the bottom, share, and click that and go ahead and share your screen. And again, I mean, don't put anything sensitive on there.
No, it's okay.
Awesome. So Pedro, while that's coming up, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, I just started to use Power BI like a year ago, but very basic because my clients, let's say like that, they are very basic also.
Got it.
So,
yeah.
But I changed jobs, and now my client is far from being basic. So I started to learn Power BI on so many YouTube channels, yours included, of course.
Yeah.
And then I started to learn. But this thing of not being able to export a visual, it's driving me mad, really, because I never found anything like it. And I went to forums to understand what's happening. And anyone gave me an answer. But I know one thing. I have a filter, the one that I told you, that a filter that that shows me how many times this guy for this rate has more than one, you know, because if he changed rates, I want to know. And normally you don't change rates, but if someone changed rates, I have to know. So I have this filter. Got it. I know it's because of this filter. If I take out the filter, for example, it works fine. I can export the
Good. You've already done some debugging, kind of narrowed the problem. Pedro, where are you based out of?
In Portugal, quite far from the city, in Lisbon. I'm in Alentejo. It's very far.
All right, that's
well,
that's
not
great.
so far as you guys, because Portugal is so small. So
yeah.
I can send you the file. I'm so sorry. Do you want I didn't understand how to share the.
Yeah, so you can, if you have it on OneDrive or something, sometimes it's easy to kind of share via link, and you can just post that in the YouTube chat window. Or I would prefer that. Or you can try sharing a screen with the green share button. Whatever.
And where is that screen?
So you see the Zoom window, Zoom. Which
yes.
Yeah. And
I don't see anything green, you know.
At the bottom on report destination.
I just have click Zoom .exe, and on the other side help.
Let's see more. You're on a Windows PC, is that right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I'll well, it should look. Oops. So it might not be exactly like that for you, but do you see something like this at the bottom where there's like a mute button, start video, and then this share button and chat?
No, I don't see nothing like that.
Okay, cool. Then let's see. Would you be able to share the file by sharing it via OneDrive, Dropbox, G Drive?
This file is so big.
Oh, is it?
This file is so big, yes.
How big is it? How many megabytes?
Well, big for me, of course. Like I don't know, 200,000 or 300,000 records.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's not big.
What is it? What is the size though? What is the size of the file? I mean, Power BI is pretty good at compression, so it can take 230,000 records.
That's true. Let me check. Is it only 1 megabyte.
I love it. So the best story I've heard of Power BI compression is where they so go ahead, share it through OneDrive and something, and put the link in the YouTube chat. I'll pick it up from there. So folks, the best story of compression I've heard is an organization who had 1 terabyte of data in SQL, and they brought it to Power BI, and it was compressed to 1/4, 250 megabytes. And I was like, yeah. And of course, you can get even better compression. Compression just depends on kind of data and a few other factors. You can get up to 90% compression. So a terabyte could become 100 megabytes, and of course, 100 megabytes could become 1 megabyte. Yeah, so it's pretty incredible. Actually, we haven't talked much about compression and optimization and performance on these calls, which is okay. But all of that stuff is there when you guys run into it. Okay, let me check.
Could you please tell me for which mail could I share this report?
Sorry, so do you have the link? Just put it in the YouTube chat if you can.
The link?
Yeah. All right, I'll check through some of the other comments. Sean is here. Sean, soon to be the Hall of Famer. So, folks, Sean has kind of featured repeatedly with a gold star on our talks. I've made a few videos which are follow-ups based on his questions. It's good to have you, Sean. That's great. Alejandro, I'm not sure. Alessandro Silva. Oh wow, I think he might be talking to you, Pedro, because
yeah. I already have the link. Can I send you somewhere?
In the YouTube chat? Where you click the Zoom link to join?
Yeah, but everyone gets access to it.
Well, right? Yeah. So if your file, yes. So hey, this is a public forum. So yeah, I mean, whatever we do is going to be kind of public. So I don't want to be touching any private files which have sensitive data. So
but for me, it's okay for you to touch.
Well, I mean, I don't know. That's how we've always operated. So anything in Talk Power BI is public to the whole world. Any file that I create, any question that I ask, right? I mean, they can see it, they can access it. We do have private calls with our class, but then anything shared there is accessible to all the students inside the class. And very rarely now I do private consulting, and only if you're in a private setting, then it'll be one-on-one, right? So if you're in a public setting, YouTube, then hey, everybody does get access to it. If you can't, then I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know why the share screen isn't working.
Yeah, but it's okay. Let me try to share what I'm saying to you. I'm just copying an image of what I'm seeing and try to.
I really doubt though if I will help you, because if the export isn't working, I would have to try to do the export. So let me see if I can. I mean, maybe I can recreate the problem with AdventureWorks. So yeah, show me what filters do you have on there. And you're saying when you export it, it doesn't. Just the export shows up. The export shows as blank. If you have the filter on.
Completely blank. Only the headers. And,
got it.
You have, for example, a simple table is names one side, and on the columns you will see several rates, and inside between the names and the columns you have dates. So the idea is each person that has more than one date, I want to see them.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Maybe let's try to recreate an AdventureWorks and see how far we go. So maybe I want to see customers who have more than one order. So I'll go in here and I'll say customer. Let's start building a matrix. Let's do size. And by the way, the visual you're using, what kind of visual is that?
The matrix.
Oh, awesome. Great. So we'll go customer full name, customer. I want to grab the ID. Where is it? Customer key. And then we'll say size. Okay, and I'll use list for now. We'll see if matrix itself creates a problem. So we have customer, and I'm gonna say order count, how many different orders they had. Oops. So sales, and we'll say sales order count, and I can add that there. And I just want to see that there are some who have just one order. Yeah, there are lots of them. So right now it says order count. I'm also going to do a customer purchasing customer count, so I get a total sense. So right now it's saying there are 70,918 customers, and they have different order counts. But now I want to take that and I want to say that I only want to see, oops, yeah, there we go. Only want to see customers which have order count greater than 0. Oh, greater than 1. So order count is greater than 1. By the way, that's just one way of doing it. You can also kind of solve in DAX. So we can see that the total changed, and now we should have only 6,624 rows in there. So we have that. Let's just see if this export works. Now I realize we have a matrix. Well, let's just test it in a list and see how that does. Live talk Power BI 2019.
Will work.
And let's just say 2019 0328 test filtered export. Oops. Okay, I'll go back and get that file. Okay, yeah, I can see the size is 178 kilobytes, so it definitely shouldn't be blank. Yep, and I should see exactly 6,624 rows in there. So, yep. So of course there's the header, so 6,625. So this works. Let's just change it to a matrix and see how that does. So I'm going to grab this one.
Please, don't forget the matrix should have some columns on the top. You know.
Okay, so you want to see
just to be identical to mine.
Okay, got it. Maybe what kind of columns though? What are you showing?
Well, in this case, I chose rates. I don't know. In your case, let me see.
Yeah. So we actually don't need. Do we need this?
Yeah.
I think we do.
That'll do. I think.
I don't know what to put on columns though. Purchasing customer count. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I can put anything, but it's
yeah, I know what you mean.
I don't know what would be similar to your scenario. Well, let's just put something there and see if that works. So now we got columns. So we got the customer key. Let's just leave that. So we have something there and something on the columns. And
I think that one works.
Export it and see what it does. I don't think I've exported a matrix ever. If I may ask, why are you exporting though?
Well, because it's the way it shows. You know, when you see rates on the top and on the left side, the names of the.
No, but why export? I mean, people can see it in the Power BI report. Why do you care about the CSV then?
I couldn't answer that because I really don't know why. I suspect that they want to do some I don't know, quick analysis or quick looks. I don't know, really.
Yeah, that's a classic.
There's not too many, you know. Like for example, this year I believe we had only like 15 or so, 15, 20.
Yeah.
I don't understand why, but it's quite a challenge to understand all this.
Yeah. So it does export for me, and now obviously what it does is it actually changes it to a list. I think now I remember I have exported matrix, so it doesn't export it quite in that format. Like the columns don't stay columns. The columns.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Sorry.
But yeah, so
it did. As long as it's exported.
Yeah, it did kind of export all of it. And let's see how many rows we end up with. We end up with exactly the same number of rows because each customer is only in one country, I think. Yeah, so it worked for me. Now, of course, that's not really good news because what I was trying to do was trying to recreate your problem. Clearly, you're having it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So, yeah, I think we're quite not nailing it at the head right now. We're not able to recreate that. So, yeah, I'm not sure what to say. Let me just double check that this does have a filter. When it does have a filter on order count. Yeah, and it does seem to be working. Yeah, I don't know what to say. So you know what? Let me go through some other questions. You can stay on the call if you like. Sure. See if you can create a subset of your data. Which well, I don't know if you were at the beginning of the call. We talked with Zach about how to share Power BI files, and we talked about different techniques. If you can use any of those to create a file which you are able to share, then we'll try that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think I gotta do that. Thank you very much.
Okay, cool. Awesome, Pedro. So, folks, at this point, let's talk about that other scenario, which I asked Pedro, like, why are they exporting? So, of course, the joke coined not by me, but my, Rob Colley. He said the third most common button for any BI tool is export to Excel, and it's third most common because the first two are OK and cancel. And I find that incredibly funny. And it's funny because it's true, right? So I had been around BI solutions all my life, right? And anybody who's worked in IT for a long time, you would see a parade of these tools, right? Somebody walks into the CEO's or the CFO's office or the CMO's office, shows them this fancy slide deck, this fancy, awesome presentation. It's like, look at this BI tool. Look at all this data at your fingertips. Oh my gosh, this is so awesome. You can carry it on your tablet and all of that sort of stuff. And it'll solve all of your BI problems, right? And then the CEO says, oh, thou shall use this, right? The commandment comes down. But what does it mean for the frontline worker, right? And that's what I identify with. That's where I worked all my life. And that's the real user that I'm trying to support. The person who's on the front line, he's really the one who's running the business. And they need data. They need it right now. And now they're supposed to use this tool, and the tool would cost millions of dollars. They would say it'll be done in 3 months. It'll never be done in 3 months. They would keep it rating, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, who cares, right? And we have to keep the ship afloat. We have to keep the business running. So you do what you got to do. You export to Excel and do the shit there, right? And that's how the world was. And you know what? You got things done, but there were two things which were true. You were always overworked, and you always underappreciated. Nobody really kind of appreciated all the stuff that you had to do to kind of massage the data and do this and copy it from here, paste it from there, and then to get the final report, which somebody's going to stick in the PowerPoint and just present it there. And then, of course, once they present it, they're going to come back with like 10 questions, 10 action items, and throw them on your head. Like, oh yeah, hey, can you find this out? And oh, they were asking about this. Can you just change that? And of course, in your world, it was like a nightmare, right? Because you built that specific report, and to change that one thing would mean writing from scratch. So that was the old world, though. We don't live in that world anymore. The world we live in right now, reporting is free. You build your model, and you can ask any question you want. If somebody says, oh, Avi, this looks great. Can you show this to me by territory? I'll say, wait a second, and I'll just drag that on there. It's like, here you go, right? So you can do that, but old habits die hard. So if my clients talk about export to Excel or export to CSV, whatever, it's the same thing. We know where CSVs go, right? Then I kind of question it a little bit. So let's actually timestamp this one. I don't know, maybe 11:10. How long was I talking? 11:13, let's say. So that's almost a red flag for me. I really want to know, what are you doing? So I'll walk you through a real scenarios. So I was working with the sales team, and I'm not sure if I'll get the exact scenario, but I built a Power BI report for them, and then they said, oh, export to Excel is really important for us, really important for us. And it took some time. It took some cajoling, right? It took some back, and I was like, wow, what do you really use it for? Just tell me. It's like, no, we really need it. I'm like, oh, well, just show me some examples. Show me. And slowly, as I won their trust, they started sharing that. So they were doing some really cool things with it, right? So basically, they were trying to find out So for one, and this might happen to you, is they're trying to match and verify the data. And this happens only initially when they don't trust your data. And man, trust is a hard thing to win. But so they were doing this, but I know, and frankly, they would find mistakes in there. They would find mistakes in there, and I would go back and fix it or something like that. And they would find mistakes, but more often than not, there were mistakes in the source or their old reports. This was more common. This was actually 80% of the time, maybe 90%. So they were used to their old reports, and boy, they were wrong. So Power BI is like a giant flashlight. Believe me, it's incredibly amazing, incredibly powerful. The first time you shine the light on your data, you see a lot of critters. You know, it's kind of like lifting a rock, and finding all those bugs under there. Right? So that's what happens. So stuff like this would happen with our clients. We would build something in Power BI, and they'll say, no, that is wrong. It doesn't work that way. And I'm like, that's what I'm seeing in the data. And I would be tempted to say it does work that way, but no, that's what I'm seeing in the data. And they'll say, no, it's not supposed to. And then I'll say, well, I'll pull up one example and say, look, Peter, this record came in. Look, he did go from this state to that state, something like that. And then they'll go, whoa, okay, let me check. And then they will call the vendor who had written the application, right? And they'll say, hey, you had our requirements, and this was supposed to work this way, and we're finding evidence to the contrary or something, right? And the vendor would say, oh yeah, okay, we're going to research. No, this is not possible. And then like a week later or something, they will come back slightly apologetic, like, oh yeah, actually, it does work that way. Maybe it's a bug or something, right? So we knew more about the data than the people who had written everything, who ran that business, and we knew more about the business in a way. And can you imagine the power of that? Oh, you feel like a god, a data god, right? So it feels incredible. Now, of course, you got to stay humble and all that, right? So don't let it get to your head. So that's what this does, and you find all sorts of stuff. So that did happen with the sales team. They would say, oh, no, this is wrong. And we'll just say, oh, well, we looked at this, we looked at that. What about this sample? Can you check us for that? And again, I would narrow down so we can cross-compare and so forth. And we found those, and so slowly they obviously started trusting our system a lot more. Sometimes they would find mistakes. Now, the turning point was, oh, I love this one. Turning point was, I think the lady's name was Shauna. She was pretty amazing. And she would always tell me, Avi, smile. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, yeah. Sometimes, I don't know. Everybody should smile more, right? So, Avi, smile. So Shauna, she called me up one morning, and she said this. She said, Avi, I'm looking at the report, and the data doesn't look right. But it wasn't that. It was the words that followed. And she said, I may be doing something wrong. Oh my God. Right. So of course, by this point, it had happened a few times where it was kind of the pilot error, right? Where just not understanding the filtering and something like that. So she wasn't saying earlier, as she would say, oh, your data is wrong, your report is wrong, you're wrong. No, just kidding about the last part. But yeah, she was saying, hey, I may be doing something wrong, and I was like, whoa, awesome. And embarrassingly, in that case, it was a mistake in her data. So I said, no, Shauna, this time you're right. but yeah, so you gotta kind of, so this was one use, match and verify. What else did they do? What they're doing is they're looking for freaking actionable data. Who cares about data? Actionable data, information, I don't know what to call it, knowledge, whatever, right? So, so who cares if the sales are up or down or sideways? Nobody cares. Nobody really cares about that. What I care is about the action that I can take. So they would maybe export the list and find out the specific customers that they need to call. That's an action for them. They're a sales team, right? They talk to clients. That's their action for them. They need to know who to call. They need to be empowered by the data. So that's what they're doing. So, of course, once I figured that out, I did the whole thing in Power BI. And I'd say, well, how do you know? And again, human learning comes before machine learning, right? You know that? Machine learning. So I want to teach that to Power BI. But first, I needed to learn what is the sales team doing. And sometimes you ask them and they wouldn't know. They would give you a very vague answer. You gotta kind of tease it out. And folks, this is the fun stuff. You talk about building Power BI models. Which course teaches you that? Nothing. Nobody. Nowhere. Right? You gotta do it to freaking learn it. Right? Dive right in, my friends. You're ready, right? You learn Power BI by doing it, not the other way around. Although, be careful of the core concepts. All right, I get carried away. Bring it back to here. So we're working with Shauna, and I'm like, well, so how do you know? I was like, well, we just know. We look at the data and we know. And of course, I wasn't falling for that, right? No, Shauna. Well, give me an example, right? They'll say, well, if they, and then we would do all the cases, and I'll tease it out over time. This would happen over weeks. So she would say, well, if their year-over-year sales dropped quite a bit, and you saw what happened there. That's how humans think. Sales year dropped quite a bit. But that's not how we actually think. We're intuitive. Quite a bit can make sense to humans because humans are freaking intuitive. They're awesome, my friends. Machines haven't taken over, right? The Terminator movie, that apocalypse, I think that's been delayed, right? So humans can say quite a bit, and it's fine for us, not fine for machines. So you got to break it down, and you can say, well, give me. What do you mean quite a bit? And again, give me some examples, right? So, well, I don't know if it dropped by more than 50%. And then I did that report, and of course I said, no, this is garbage because you're showing me a customer who ordered $2 worth of stuff last year and $1 stuff this year. I don't care about those. So I said, okay, what do you care about? I said, well, only high-paying customers. And you see what we're doing here, right? Again, every single time. This is intuitive. This is human talk. This is not how machines talk. So you got to translate. Oh my gosh, I just learned something. So this is what Power BI modeling is. Oh my gosh, this is a breakthrough. Power BI modeling is being the freaking translator. Oh gosh, how do I make it like super big and bold? Is being the translator. Man. So guys, here, so we're gonna stop there. You're gonna stop. Just stop right now. Everything you're doing. Go back to my channel. If you go to my channel, there is a whole talk about building Power BI models, and it's a good talk, if I may say so myself, right? So, man, it's crazy how sometimes the good stuff happens kind of near the end of the calls. I've seen this phenomena with our class calls too, but man, this is good stuff. So Power BI modeling, yeah, it's right there. Again, the good stuff is in the Learn Power BI, and there are 2 lectures, 2 webinars that I've done with Microsoft, and they're both good. And it talks about data table and lookup tables and that sort of stuff. That was my understanding of this some time ago. And again, to teach is to learn twice. Teach is how you really learn. So yeah, go help others. So that's what I thought modeling is. And well, in a way it is, but in a way it's so much more. And this is the other level of thinking, which all of my students, all of you folks have helped me achieve, right? So you heard me talk about this earlier, where I don't see Power BI modeling the way I saw it now. I mean, those things do need to be done. They are an integral part of modeling. The data table, the lookup table, who, what, where, and how, all of that applies. But then I think of it at a higher level now. Power BI modeling is what did I say? Is assumptions. I'm not going to do it in the right order. It's assumptions. It is decision points. It is scoping. And now I guess it's on there as translation, translator. I'll refine that. I'll think about that. But you're constantly translating between the humans you're talking to, right, your clients, and the Power BI language, right? So translator, human to machine. Machine is Power BI in this case. So yeah, that's right. So again, you start thinking of it at a different level. And again, once you get it, you realize what you're doing. And just by realizing, you get better at it, right? I mean, I'm far better now at understanding my assumptions and taking smarter assumptions or smarter decisions just because I can recognize that much more by being aware of it. Earlier, I wasn't aware of it. I never thought that modeling is this. Now I am. And just by that simple awareness, you're better at it, right? Okay, cool. Let's bring it back here. So she said high-paying customers, and again I translated, right? So I said, well, what do you mean high-paying? So well, give me an example, something like that. Just give me something. Let's go maybe more than $1,000, right? So we'll say, okay, cool. And of course, what I did was I built that report for them. And so now it's built in. It's like, oh, cool. So you have your standard report. Oh, by the way, I also added this for all these folks. And she would say, and they would be a little bit skeptical, and that's okay, right? But most likely they will bite it, right? And they'll bite it, and you know the sign when they come back to you. If you built a report and they never came back to you, you're a failure, my friend. No, okay, I don't want to be harsh, but you probably missed a turn. So I remember talking to a DBA, and they had this report with like 1,000 columns. And I said, why would you ever build that report, right? I mean, I just don't understand. And he said, Avi, I'm just trying to help my customer, right? I want them to have everything that they need. But guys, here's the truth, right? When they have everything, they have nothing, because that data is completely useless. Nobody can work with 1,000 columns and 1,000,000 rows. No, frankly, we can't make sense of 100 rows of data. You show me 100 rows of numbers, and I wouldn't know what that is. I mean, I wouldn't. We need to like see it visually. We need to see average or minimum or max or median or something like that, right? So we can't process that much data. So everything is nothing. But they were well intentioned. So if you build a report like that, 1,000 columns, 1,000,000 rows, and they never come back to you, well, yeah, I mean, it was a disaster, my friend. You didn't excel in your job. So if you want to own up to this, you want to be the Power BI model author, and this is such an incredibly powerful position, generally, you want to see people come back to you. So Shauna got this, and they came like, hey, Avi, that's awesome, but this new scenario. And she would throw something. Let me see if I can come up with it. They'll say, I don't know. There's these gold level customers, and they actually did have gold level and stuff like that, whom I care about all the time. I don't know. Maybe I also want to be alerted for prospects. So it is not about year over year sales. This is a new prospects. These are new clients we want to land, and I want to see where their deal is, and on and on and on. Right. So whatever the situation is, and you kind of keep chiseling at it, you keep making it more actionable, and which minimizes the need to export to Excel. So I often see it as red flag. Not always, I mean, but watch out for that. Just understand what is the underlying emotion behind it. You got to understand that, is this what they're trying to do? Just yeah, I mean, what do you do with this? And again, they would be reluctant. If they're doing this, they would be reluctant to share that with you. But yeah, see if you can tease it out. So by understand that, you can address that, you can focus on that. If this is what they're doing, they're trying to get actionable data, you can kind of just serve them better. And maybe there are other things here. But again, folks, so you get the idea here, hopefully, that in a way, when I think about Power BI, I'm so much in tech, but it is so much about beyond that, right? So, all right. I'm going to stop there. Check in with the comments. Oh boy, there's lots of comments. So folks, I can't keep up with all of that. Let me read the last one. Can we group the shapes in Power BI as we can do in Excel charts? Ooh, I don't believe so. See if there's an idea on the ideas.Power BI site. Let's check that really quick. So this is Saurabh's question. He's asking, can we group the shapes? That would be a really useful feature. And bookmarks are pretty cool. And grouping shapes. Oh, is this you, my friend? This is like the exact language. Let's vote. Why does it have 4 votes? Why does this have 4 votes? This is clearly a good idea. So folks, let's vote. And there are 23 of us watching right now. So let's see how far we can move up this counter. All right. Also, is there any way to manage interaction for one visual in one go instead of clicking every visual and changing it? Like, I don't want one visual. I love that idea. The best that I can offer you is not for one visual, but you can change it in a global setting. So in a global setting, options, you can say, that for this report, I want the default to be cross-filtering, not cross-highlight. And this, by the way, yeah, so you can choose this option. Change default visual interaction from cross-highlight to cross-filter. But again, it's global. It's not about one visual. I like your idea. I like your other idea, Saurabh, as well. See if you can find it on ideas.powerbi.com. Post a link. We'll vote for it. I had another thought about this. Oh, yeah. What I wanted to say was that, folks, so that feature was a somewhat new feature. And so what I try to do is I try to recap the monthly updates. So are they here? They're somewhere here. Oh, there we go. Power BI monthly updates. So go. You can click on this playlist, and it has, well, and again, it has gone in the highlights ever since I started doing this. When did I start doing it? February 2018. So before that, sorry, I can't help you, but so this one, and again, I did a recap for the year as well, top 10 features of 2018. That way you can just kind of stay in touch. Now, what I would say though is, if you're starting out with Power BI, don't make monthly updates your focus. It may feel like you got to run on that treadmill. You don't, my friend. You don't. Just step off that treadmill. Don't feel like you got to stay up to date on all of things. The core value in Power BI is the core concepts. You got to understand how to use a query editor, why that is a kitchen of Power BI, why that's where you should be doing the clean shape transform. You got to understand then that why measures are magical, the power that measures have, the defined ones used everywhere. You got to understand that stuff and then go from there. Okay. Yeah. So Pedro, yeah, see if you can, man, that's frankly kind of an annoying problem, isn't it? Right? So it's one of those problems like, why the heck is this doing it this way? It just doesn't make any sense. And, so there's something about your data. So clearly we try to replicate it. So it's not quite that. It's not that if you have a matrix and you have a filter, then it's not going to work. It worked for us, right? So we know that's not it. It's something else. It's something else in there which is blanking it out. Man, I'm pretty keen to solve it. I'm pretty keen to solve it. If you can get a file from you where you can anonymize the data or simplify it or remove everything else, something like that. Or do send me a screenshot. And again, you can upload your screenshot in a lot of places. Paste, just go for paste screenshot online or something like that. And there's Snaggy, there's OnPaste, there's Pasteboard, and all of these places you can just go in. And I like Pasteboard because you can just kind of Control C, Control V. So I can just come in here and I just hit Control V on my keyboard, and it does that, and you can hit upload. So show me maybe exactly the filters, the setting, the matrix. So show me like this maybe. Oops, why isn't it working? Yeah, so so I can see like what fields are there, which tables are they coming in from, and so forth. And maybe we can do something. And of course, if we can share the file, that's awesome. Yeah, because it should work, of course, right? All right, cool. Did the call drop? Let's do the calling again. So I think Scott Schuler. Privacy levels, data source. That's interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. Ooh, yeah, that's a workaround. Not that I would jump to. So Scott is saying, can you use calculate table to just build that table in that format and use that to export? The challenge with calculate table is not dynamic. So if somebody adds a filter and says, oh no, I want to be able to slice it by country, then that calculate table isn't going to do that. So if they click on another graph or something in there and they expect in Power BI, you start expecting things to cross filter. They may not even realize that it's not cross filtering, right? So they may like click on September and and not realize that the customer list, because it's a calculated table, is not filtered. So calculate table, not recommended, but I mean, hey, it's a workaround. What else? Can't think of anything else. Oh, nice. Okay, I got the link. Okay. Boy, I want to make sure, is it okay to put it on there? Well, okay, I assume it is. Let's see. Pedro, so this was export matrix with filter not working. That should have worked. Nope. Earliest day. Okay, let's see what's going on here. So I think count rate day is the key one, isn't it? So if count rate is that the one? Actually, I don't know. Count rate type. Is that count rate type is greater than 1? If you remove that filter, my assumption is it's going to work. Okay, let's see what we can divine from this, my friends. If you don't have the file, so here's a name, and again, I would have liked to know which table it's coming from, but I don't quite know that right now. So there's a name. Okay, so the person's name, and there's a rate type on there in the columns, and each person has one rate type. And value is earliest day. Earliest day. Okay. Earliest day. Got it. And filter is by something else. So again, what I'm noticing here is I'm contrasting this with the solution that I have in AdventureWorks. So in here, you realize that there is a filter on a field which is not being shown. That's not what I had. My filter was on a field being shown. So maybe that's the difference, right? So again, in here, my filter order count. Oh, actually, no, I take that back. It was the same setup. So order count is the filter, order count greater than 1, and it's not being shown. So that's not it. That's not it. Let's see what else we can divine from this. And I know we're handicapped a little bit. So name, rate type, earliest day. Well, for one, yeah, so name, rate type, earliest day. And then you say count type is that. Name, rate type, earliest day. So I thought of a workaround. I don't know if even it would work or not. And let's write down all the good ideas we had. And again, I would want to solve it. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Workaround. So one was Scott, which was calculate table. And it's a powerful technique, but the disadvantage is that not responsive to cross filtering slicers, etc. And I think in my mind that's usually a severe disadvantage, but that's fine. And what I thought was show matrix and a list. Right, so you show matrix, but then on the side, because frankly, when they export it, it doesn't export in the matrix format anyway, right? So it all pretty much flattens it to a list. So why not take this and take the same data stuff and just change it to a list and see if that exports. Right, so we're gonna delete that, and if the list exports, then you can even kind of keep the list compact or something like that. You can add like a box or something like that. Let's see. Oh shoot, didn't want to do that. You can add. How do you say? Yeah, there we go, blank. And we can say, can I type into this? Oh, you know what? I don't think something like that. You get the idea. You can add like a text box. Let's just do a simple text box. There we go. And you can say export data using visual below. Click on ... ellipses. That's what they're called, I guess. All right, so oops, that's a little too big. So you do something like this, and again, bloody workaround, but it might work. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's a weird one for sure. And yeah, man, if I could get my hands on the file, I feel like we would narrow it down, and we would kind of understand it. Okay, cool. So let's go. What I was going to do was invite you again to the call-in line. How do I? So if you go to, by the way, you get access to this if you go to talkpowerbi.com. You get access to the notes, to the files, the call-in link. We're still working on that pre-submit questions. I apologize for that. I know it's been a long time. All right, cool. So let's open up the call again, and I was going to do something in my notes. I forgot what now. Oh, all right, folks. Hey, how are we doing in time? I've forgotten, like if I had a noon appointment or something like that. It's but hey, that just means I'm having fun over here, right, with you guys. Okay, so let's go back. Nope, not to this. Go back to the chat window, which is here. And oh, I took my eyes off the chat window. There's something going on. Call in. So I'll paste the link again if anybody else needs to talk. Frankly, at the end of this call, I kind of get worn out a bit, and where I can't. It's harder for me to go through the chat. It's easy for me to talk. All right, so Pedro seems to like my list solution. It might work. Count rate type is a measure that you can see above. Oh yeah, we're changing a list to become all blank. Oh, very interesting. By changing to a list, it became all blank. That may be the clue. That may be the thing we need to solve, because it's essentially exports a list, right? It doesn't export a matrix. So there's something bigger going on that I think you should solve. You need to solve. My hunch is that actually your matrix is incorrect. That's what I'm feeling right now.
Oh, very good. I love that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah. So, yes.
Should I do the matrix again? Because I already did, and the same result.
Yeah, my feeling is that the matrix is incorrect. Yeah, I mean, can you know for sure that it is actually indeed filtering what you said?
Yes, I can Yes, it is filtering, because I'm seeing, as the picture that I've sent you, I'm seeing exactly the person that I want to see, the person that has more than one rates, and it shows me the dates between, for each rate.
Yeah, that's a wonder. So list becomes blank though. Why does the list become blank? So you have a name, a rate type, and you have the earliest day. What is earliest day?
Well, it's the first day of that date.
Okay. I would assume that it is not what we call an explicit measure. Like, can you click on it and see its definition?
On earliest day?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. It shows me the earliest, latest, count distinct, count.
Not that, the formula. So you probably dragged a field and chose the option. Well, I mean, I generally don't recommend it. So that creates what we call an implicit measure. I don't like implicit measures. I like explicit measures because I want to be in control, and I want to see exactly kind of what's going on under the hood. So I can imagine what it's doing. It's probably doing like an earliest function of some date, something like that. So how can we see
the field is date? The field is day, only date. You know. Kind of records everything what happens with each person for each day. If a person change 3 times in the same day, it will record all 3 times in the same day, etc.
So I think you need to redefine that, I would say, as an explicit measure, where you define a DAX function, right? So, and it may look something like this. It may look, if I go to date, I think it's going to be as simple as this. Let's try it. So hold on, let me share my screen here. Okay, cool. So it might be, best I can gather, it's going to be earliest date is earliest. I think that's earliest. Yeah, there we go. And something like this. Oh, come on, autocomplete. Why isn't it helping me? I don't know. I don't know why autocomplete decided to shut down, but I think, oh gosh, it's not happy. Earliest. No, this is not it. Yeah, I think it's the, what is it? First non. I don't really know. First date turns first non-blank date. Min could work. Yeah, min could work. First date. One of these. So basically, so you need an explicit measure. And once we have that, we're going to be in a lot more control. Because I think I know, I have a clue as to what's going on. So let's go back to our export. So this is a little tricky one. So I'll give a little bit of background. So folks, of course, this is inside my course as well, but a good part of it is also on YouTube, which is this stuff on DAX measure. And frankly, these are the two things which scared the shit out of me in Power BI. The filter context and row context. And anytime my measures wouldn't work, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to think about row context and filter context. And that just made me so nervous. Till I realized how simple, dead simple the concepts are. Really, I mean, it stunned me. And I think if you go through this video, you'll realize. So I came up with this formula I called I can. And yeah, I had to work hard to kind of come up with that. But and it stands for what it stands for, income and calculate. But the main message was that if I can figure it out, then you can too. It is simple. It is simple. It's not complicated. But we talked about the dynamic earlier, where Power BI is easy, but it's hard, right? But we know that it does get easy again, and it is the same dynamic with DAX and filter context and such, where it's easy. Once you go through this module, you realize that it's dead simple, but it's also complicated. And it's complicated because the same way Legos are complicated, right? So nobody would, if I say, are Legos complicated, but they wouldn't, nobody would say yes, right? So same way, this stuff is really, really simple, but what you can build with Legos can be really complicated. And I know a few friends who are Lego fans, and yeah, you would see, like, I don't know, like Star Wars ships and all that stuff. And oh gosh, let's try, let's bring up some cool example. Ooh, yeah, look at this stuff. So are Legos simple? Yes, they are. Is this simple? No, it's not. It's kind of the same way with that, but again, the idea is to kind of break it down. So again, I mean, my feeling is that it's something to do with the filter and row context, and somehow it's operating differently in a matrix versus a list. So when the measure, which is essentially a measure, this thing, and again, we talked about the implicit versus explicit, and that's why I would like this to be an explicit measure, this value earliest day, so that I can like feel it. I can right. So this is a measure, and all measures are subject to the filter context. Any measure you define is always calculated within a filter context. So somehow the filter context, I think it's translating differently in a matrix versus a list. That's my best feeling so far. So if you can solve it, if you can solve the problem in list, you can make it work in a list, I think your export would start working from a matrix as well. Then you wouldn't actually need the list. If you can fix the measure so that the list is not blank, it does show you valid data, then the export would start working. Sorry, I know not too much of a clue. But,
no, it's okay. It's okay.
All right, but
I did search for new matrix on the whatever to install in these visuals, but I couldn't find any other visual which is a matrix, because it crossed my mind that could be a problem on
possibly
this matrix. I don't know.
That's true. I've certainly had trouble with custom visuals. So yeah, I'm frankly not a huge fan of custom visuals anyway. You guys heard me earlier talk about always start with the staple of kind of tables, which includes cards and matrix, and then column bar charts and line charts. But in some custom visuals, I've had trouble with exporting as well. So yeah, good thinking, and that's great. That's how you should be approaching the problem. So I love kind of your thought process. You're saying, hey, can we eliminate that? Can we eliminate this, and so forth? And I'm glad we tried the list, so we at least know a little bit more. I think that was a useful clue.
It is also, I think, I found a way to turn around, which is when you're seeing this report on your browser, because I'm sending this to a client, let's say client, and he goes to the filter, and he simply takes out the filter. And when he takes out this filter, the count rate type, it works.
Okay. Well.
So you do it in Excel. You just go to that column, just see the duplicates, delete all which is not duplicates, and that's it. It's just a workaround.
Hey,
it's kind of funny.
No, that's good. I mean, and again, guys, you gotta really respect its thought process. So Pedro, you're spot on this. So when you're like struggling with the problem and kind of brainstorming stuff, the number one rule for brainstorming is you don't judge at that point, because if you start judging, like, oh no, that's a silly idea, you wouldn't even. You want to get in a flow where you're just coming up with ideas. Like, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And you just write it down, and then you can go back and judge all you want, right? So yeah, it's just good thinking. All right. So hey, if not now, maybe on a future talk Power BI, man, if you can send like some subset of the file, because now I'm really intrigued, right? Because now, because now I feel like there is filter context involved, and I love kind of taking that apart and saying, oh, yeah, this is what's going on. So cool, good stuff, Pedro. And
thank you for sure. As soon as I find the answer, I will let you know for sure.
That's great, awesome, love it.
Okay, thank you very much, Avi.
All right, great, thanks. Oh yeah, this one is simple. Saurabh, I like this one. So when you enter data, and I do that, well, I actually do that more because I'm teaching, I'm in a hurry, and I would just go in here and enter something. But Saurabh's question is, how do you change that? And yeah, it's pretty easy to change it. I'll just say, and you can copy paste data here as well, by the way. So you can go in here and you can do this. And I could paste that, right? So you can do that. But then how do you change it? Well, you change it in the query editor, and I'll show you where. Now, of course, be a little careful of what you use enter data for. Usually, it's a better idea to source that data from somewhere, like an Excel file, CSV, SharePoint list, or something like that. Why is that a better idea? Actually, this is a good question. We'll call it out. I thought this was going to be a quick one, but I think there's something in there. All right. Why do people, and this one is modeling is translating. Ooh, oh my gosh. I'll put a gold star on this one. This was awesome. And this was led by Pedro's question, so kind of Pedro gets a gold star. All right, let's see. What is this? What is parking lot? Amandeep. Hey, Aman, if you're still on the call, just dial in using the Zoom link. All right, let's see. What did I want to say? I want to say 11:58, and this one is Saurabh. And if I spell it, not butcher his name. And he was asking how to change the data entered by enter data. And what I was saying was avoid this option generally. Better to so let's stop share here. Better to connect to Excel, SharePoint list, something like that. Why? Because you want to separate model from data. So normally a model doesn't have any data, right? It doesn't have data of its own. We connect to a whole bunch of sources. And of course, if you go into the query editor and look at query dependencies view, or you look at your data sources, it's going to show you all the sources, right? So these are all the stuff that kind of show up at the top. So there's this guy I'm connecting to, this guy, and again, if there are SQL servers, you can connect to 50 different sources. I don't really care, right? Whatever your model is, whatever your needs are. So those are the data sources. You can also see them by going to data source settings in here. And that's also a quick way to change it, by the way. Now, what you can't do here is you can't change like an Access database or an Excel file to SQL, but you can change that in the query editor, right? So that's a separate thing, but you can change the location and such. All right, so so again, a model doesn't have its own data, and that's good, right? So that's how you want to operate. Now, if you use the enter data option, now the model has its own data, and obviously that enter data, maybe, right? I mean, I don't know. So enter data depends on what you're using it for. Now, if you're using for something like disconnected slicers, so these are covered in my course. If you don't know them, just Google. If you're in the course, just go look for the disconnected slicers lessons inside the course. Then I think this is okay. I would take that. Although again, you can also connect it to something else. But if it's something else like a mapping table or something like that, connect to external file. So let's say you build a mapping table, and I love these ones. So let's say you say, oh, all the product names in the system are right, but this one is wrong, or this one needs to be mapped to this category, or this country needs to be mapped differently. Whatever, there's like thousands of scenarios where you would use something like this. When you build it into the model, it's part of the model, and only the model author can change it, right? So the disadvantage here is if you built it in here, only model author can change it. So if it's like a mapping table or something, frankly, I don't want to create that dependency because, dude, I mean, if you're designing Power BI models, I want you to be the superstar in your company, all right? You know, again, don't just learn, lead, you know, step into that leadership role, right? So, and you don't need permission. And what was the other one? You don't need a title, all right? So we've had CFOs and we've had like call center analysts who've been leading their company into this new world of Power BI. So I want you to be a super rock star, right? It's like badass, you know, in a nice way. And you don't want to be bothered with the stuff where somebody says, "Oh, Avi, you know, can you the thing that you built, can you add this on there? It changed." And I'm like, dude, I don't have time for this. You know, I've a bigger mission to accomplish. So I don't want to create that connection, and I want the ability for somebody else to do it, right? And to change that, and that's why I would keep it external. So I would keep it to an Excel file or something, because if it's an Excel file or a SharePoint list or wherever else it's coming from, I can just, maybe they own it themselves. That may be ideal. That way you can also, if it's wrong, you can say, hey, it's owned by that person, not me, you know? But otherwise say, okay, yep, you own it. And yeah, if you need to add something, delete something, go at it, have at it, you know, you don't need to ask me. So it's good for everybody. You know, I don't want to make it sound like it's good for us. It's good for them as well. They have more control over it. But again, so I just wanted to start off with caveat. But again, there are scenarios where I do use interdata. So if you do that, how do you change it? Oh, that's easy. So you go in here and you're going to see it and you're going to say, what? Avi, seriously? I mean, you took that long to build up to this. You go to that and click, oh gosh, what happened? Go to that and you click this gear icon and source. I see it? Ooh, you're going to love it. You're going to click this icon and source and you get the interdata box again. And guess what? It's not working. It's coming up. What's it doing? Oh, there we go. You can copy paste again. Yeah, so you can say, you can go over here and let's say, and between 1 and 10 times 100, and right. So you can get a new set of names, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? Whatever your new set of data is, and you can come in here and I think you just boom, done. And it does this header thing, which sometimes it's annoying and all that stuff, but I don't know, you may have to deal with that a little bit, but that's usually easy. Right, so there you go, new data. That's how you change it. Sorry, let me know if that helped. All right, folks. Boy, I feel really good right now. I don't know how you guys are feeling. I mean, did we cross 3 hours already? We did. It's 12:05. It's been 3 hours. Yeah. I might get up and walk around a little bit, but kind of mentally, I'm tuned in, man. I'm ready to go. Yeah, these calls are pretty amazing, actually. Sometimes it ebbs and flows. So I know that when I was doing like live training, I knew that I fed off of the energy of the crowd, which meant that if they're engaged, I would really become like the best trainer. I would become really good. But then if they were low energy, then I would lose my track as well, which is actually not a good trait for a trainer. I've talked to other trainers and they said, well, yeah, you got to be able to do your job regardless of, even if they're like quiet and so forth. But yeah, I think for me, I got to admit it. I mean, if the crowd is there and you guys are here, you guys are engaged, you guys are asking questions, what more can I ask for? I can't ask for anything more, my friends, anything more. This is it. This is what you know, what I feel excited about when I get up in the morning. Right? I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. Yep, I know. Once you see it, like, what, seriously? It's there. Custom way. Sort in a custom way. Yeah, that's great. So if it's for a small list, then it's fine. If it's for a big list, then I would source it from somewhere. Good stuff. Yeah, this is the mission of my life, and frankly, by teaching it, I've been able to crystallize what the the way I see this world. So I'm going to share one video with you. Maybe I should make it public. I don't know why I kind of hesitated. Let me bring it up on my channel. And I didn't make it public, so it's a private video right now. But I'll share it with you guys. And what I'll do, I'll put it up as well. Where is that video? Oh yeah, here it is. Pro Plus. And I already need to update the video. Kind of like how I'm learning about data modeling, I'm also kind of learning about basically learning Power BI. Like what is the important stuff? And guys, I don't know if it'll surprise you. I mean, to me, sometimes I feel surprised by it, but sometimes it feels so obvious that oddly enough, learning Power BI, I feel is not about Power BI. I mean, sometimes people feel that way, that, oh, I need to understand calculate and filter. I need to understand summarize and calculate table, and then I will be good. I'll be ready. And that's just bullshit, all right? There's nothing wrong with knowing those, but you're missing the point. If you're so focused, you know, what is that saying? You're not seeing the forest, you're just seeing the trees, right? So I want you to see the forest. I want you to see the big picture, because again, I don't want you to just learn Power BI and use it. I want you to lead, to have this big impact. Okay, I'm going to stop talking because I do want to share this video with you, and I want to find the chat box. Man, I've ended up with quite a few windows open here, and I'm going to say, for now, it's for your eyes only. This is so yeah, this is not shared publicly, but Power BI. This has my principles, and it doesn't have one key one that I kind of discovered later on. So let me see if I can just quickly mute the video first. I don't want to hear myself. Okay, cool. And let's see. So what is it about? And so there are three key things that I think I came to. One was learning by doing. I feel that's critically important. And again, we have it backwards. We feel like when I'm good at Power BI, then I'll start doing things. It's backwards, my friend, right? When you start doing those things, then you'll become good at Power BI, right? You see how we do it? And by the way, if you, well, I'll just speak for a little bit because I feel passionately about it. We also do this in other realms of our life. Oops, I don't want to play. We think, when I achieve this, then I'm going to be successful. When I achieve that, whatever, money, title, whatever it is, then I'm going to be happy. Then I'm going to be able to spend more time with my family. That's all bullshit as well, all right? By being happy inside, by being successful inside, that's when you start seeing success in the outer world. It's backwards. And yeah, so you can choose to believe me or not, but I mean, I learned it the hard way, my friends. I've learned it the hard way. Cool. So that's kind of my first thing, the learning by doing. And then let's see if I have the other one, learning by doing. Oh gosh, about community. I thought I had a nice picture about it. Nice picture. Do I have a picture? I can't find it. But anyway, next thing is I believe in the community. I think we learn better together. So Peter, the gentleman who had called in earlier. So by the way, this video does talk about the 3 levels of the program that we have, like the the Pro and the Pro Plus. And basically, this is just me coming up with kind of different ways to serve the customer. So Peter is part of the highest level program, the Pro Plus. We're running a beta right now. And Peter, the other day, so by the way, we end our calls on #gratitude. So we say one thing we're grateful for. And man, I'm never going to forget what Peter said. And he said, I feel grateful for having found this family. And I don't know, man, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. So if you've heard me refer to that as Learn Power BI Family, it wasn't always the case. I never always, when I started off, I never thought of that word. But somewhere during the last year, I thought of the word. I'm like, oh, when I don't know, maybe I was talking to one of my team members, and I said, yeah, Learn Power BI Family. And I just stopped because I'm like, should I call them that? I guess I should. Now, what I hadn't realized was that, guys, names, words, they're powerful. What we say, and especially what we think. So be careful, man. Words have power. Be careful of your thoughts and what you speak, because they have all the power in the world. So when I started calling it Learn Power BI Family, fucking everything changed, man. Because when you start calling somebody family, you think about it differently, you act differently, you treat them as family. So the way I approach this is really different. I mean, and frankly, it's kind of more on the inside than outside, but yeah. So now, of course, there's a practical matter that now we have 500 plus students in a course and so forth. So I can't be there for everybody all the time. But, and again, it's not on the outside. It's not what you do. It's how you do it, right? It's how you do it, with what feeling. So you can go to the class and be annoyed sometimes, right? I mean, I guess I've had those days as well, where so sometimes I would feel annoyed, like, oh gosh, you're asking the same question again. Oh gosh, this is covered in the course. But no, I don't do that, right? I want to approach it with 100% pure love, right? So that's the second point, right? So first is learn by doing. Next is that I think we're more powerful. We're incredibly powerful when we're together. And again, in a way, this whole thing about the higher levels is the truth of the matter is that it's hard to have a really cohesive community when you're 500 people, And I've experienced this in my entrepreneurs program as well. Inevitably, when we formed, kind of joined higher and higher groups, and guys, I mean, I said that I'm glad I didn't go to the MBA route, but hey, I mean, these courses can be costly as well, but it's been worth every penny because of what I got out of it, right? So the closer the group was, just the dynamic kind of changes. So right now, I'm focused on this team of folks, and Peter is part of that. And so I'm glad kind of Peter shared that day. That he said, oh, I'm glad to have found this family, and he's talking about this. So we're 10 strong right now, and 10 pretty amazing folks, and yeah, we hang out with them. So anyway, so I want to get back to the 3 core principles for me. Well, there's a Uber principle. This is overarches everything. So teach everything you know. So I'm on a mission to I just want to brain dump like everything I've learned, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it's like, hey, if it's useful to you, I'm going to teach it to you, right? So that's a bigger mission. But what I believe in is learning by doing. I believe in community, and there's a third one which I didn't put on there, which is, oh gosh, I think it's about the leadership thing that I talk about. Don't just learn, lead, right? So, and again, you don't need anybody's permission. You don't need a title for that. You just step into that role. I am going to lead my organization into this new age of BI, right? And if you're thinking, why me? Why should I be? I'll quote Russell Wilson, or Seattle Seahawks quarterback, is like, why not us? So this he shared after he'd won the Super Bowl about his mindset. Right, about his mindset. Again, guys, I talked about that, right? Success starts inside, not outside. Outside is just a reflection of what you are inside, as within, as without. Right? As you are within, that's what reflected is outside, right? So if inside you go with this attitude of like, why not freaking us, right? I mean, if I'm not going to lead, yeah, why not me, right? So just if you go with that, it empowers you, right? So yeah, so that's the last thing. Don't just learn, just be lead. And what is leadership about? Is leadership about the title? No, it isn't. Leadership is about impact. Leadership is about, I don't know, it boils down to people, I think, right? I mean, ultimately, you're impacting somebody's life. You can build reports. What is behind reports? People, right? Who is impacted by reports? People are, right? So never lose that connection. For me, it kind of became a reality the first time I did a map of all of our students, and they were data points, right? But every data point was a person. So of course, in that case, it was easy. It was like really tangible. But then I started thinking about all the reports. And guys, right? I mean, there's people everywhere. There are people kind of underlying that who made that happen. Kind of the report and the numbers being shown in the report. Like if it's showing sales, imagine how many people had a hand in that. And then, of course, there are people impacted by it, right? So it's about people, it's about impact. All right, cool. So, hey, I'll get off my soapbox. But, folks, what can I say? I mean, you know, that is the good stuff. Oh, I should do a shout out for my other channel. So, folks, it's up and coming. But if you go to my channel, so folks, so here's what happens, right? So you can ignore everything that I say. You can say whatever, right? Or you can say bullshit, right? And you're fine. It's okay. I don't mind, right? But I think at some point you're gonna realize in your life that that's important. So that was my journey, right? So I was just focused on, when I left Microsoft, I couldn't think of anything beyond money. Right? So I went cold turkey, which I generally don't advise to anybody. So I just up and left my job, and now my income went to zero. I didn't have any insurance. I had to kind of struggle with that, trying to find insurance. It's bloody hard when you're not working in a company, right? So, and I couldn't think beyond money. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was so panicky, so anxious, and things didn't work out. Now, and then things started to work out. So anybody who's outside looking in, when I talk to people, they say, oh yeah, Avi, your channel took off and and this happened and now you're happy. It was the opposite. It was the opposite. So I struggled for, well, I mean, the long view of things, it wasn't that long a period, but it felt like, like endless, right, at that point. But then a shift happened inside where I said, I'm freaking happy, right? I'm happy, I'm blessed, I get to do this, and I'm successful, I'm powerful. And again, it happened over time, slowly a small part of me would start feeling it that way. And as I felt more and more that way, the outer world changed, right? So to an outsider, it looks like that. So I talk to people and they ignore everything that I say. And they say stuff like, Avi, it's easy for you to say, man, you've made it, But it's not like that, my friend. It's not like that at all. Right, so if that stuff is like I don't know, resonating with you at all, then
this is Avi Singh.
Oops, that's always weird. Listen to yourself. So this is my new effort where I talk about the really important stuff. So yeah, that's the channel on there, and some of you already subscribed. There are not that many videos on there yet, but again, I mean, I really think that is really good stuff in life. That's the real life lessons. I mean, if I were to have a choice of passing on something to my son or daughter, it would be that, not PowerBI. Although my son, he's pretty cool, by the way. We've had battle journeys. Sound. Let me see if I can find his channel. So he started he started an Instagram channel the same time I started my YouTube channel. And this is him, man. And look at that. He's a badass. He's in high school. He's in 9th grade. And he runs his fan page, and oh boy, it's pretty incredible. So yeah, he's pretty good. Sound is still to die. If you're a Sounders fan, go follow them there. All right, folks. So let's end it at that note. Frankly, I don't think I can top it. That was important for me. I'm glad I got to share that with all of you. And yeah, we'll see you again next week, same time. Awesome. Power on.